Hello, we're live. Welcome to the Crowder Boys. Today is March. What is today? March 5th,
Fifth.
Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Anno Domini in the year of our Lord. Did you guys ever have anybody try to tell you that AD meant after death?
I thought I meant Anthony Davis.
Who was Anthony Davis?
That's what I thought AD meant was after death.
No. No, it's a Latin term, a Latin phrase, Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord. So when you hear people say,
why did you say it like a Japanese guy, Dalton?
Oh,
No can defend.
I've been listening to a lot of like Japanese 80s music, so maybe that's why.
It's great.
But yeah, when you hear people say in the year of our Lord, what they're referencing is like the Latin AD, Anno Domini.
Don, you're being religious right now.
I'm going full religious. Anyway, so yeah, welcome to the show.
Wait, hold on. Before we go any further, does that mean that BC does not mean before Christ?
BC is a headache powder.
That's true.
I think it doesn't. Wait, what does BC mean?
That's a good question. I guess BC.
I think it does mean before
BC. Christ. BC, I think, does mean before Christ.
Because after death, I never thought after death made sense because Jesus lived in like 23 AD.
Yeah, AD is just in reference to like that we're now in the time of Jesus, like the year of our Lord.
He's a good player, but they shouldn't have traded him for Luka.
I call 2007 AD after D. Nothing's been the same since that happened.
I tried an off-brand Zyn, and I'm really lightheaded right now.
Yeah, would you see? You took the Gas Digital has a new sponsor. You said that's like
it's like Zik or Zim or something like that.
Yeah,
Invader Zim.
Wait, let me find it.
Invader Zim was a good show, but very scary.
Very scary, yeah.
I would say, especially that one episode where Zim is kind of like killing Dib. I would say that like a lot of people hype up Courage the Cowardly Dog, but I would say Invader Zim might be a creepier, scarier cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Invader Zim was definitely had some disturbing moments. That was in that era of, when they were doing like cartoons that were also terrifying that were being made, but because I guess like all cartoons now are being made by like lesbians on SSRIs, and so they all kind of are like have this similar toothless style to them, like where they're all about like the power of love and friendship, and the
animation was like Ren and Stimpy, where it was like, I can't believe this is on kids' TV sometimes.
Yeah, but yeah, when we were
also,
kids,
they did a lot of false advertising. They made it look like Gurr was the main character.
Gurr kind of is the main character.
I mean, he was the funny character, but no one else was that funny on the show.
Right.
I just remember Invader Zim feeling like even Courage. You just got the feel like there were some funny moments. I mean, Invader Sim was funny too, but there were funny moments in Courage, and you always just kind of felt like he would be all right. Whereas Invader Zim felt very hopeless and dark.
It's set in like a dystopia.
Yeah, Invader Zim was a very like desolate show.
Yeah, open in the way of Super Mario 64. I hate to bring it back like we always do, but the original's scary.
Similar. I think Invader Zim might have been scarier than Mario 64. Because Invader Zim wasn't even a good guy. He was like evil. Mario was a good guy.
And probably like the most realistically scary show was Hey Arnold.
The early aughts had a lot of like hot topic shit. Like it was very in vogue to like.
I will say Mario did murder a lot of beasts and creatures. So.
That is true.
So did Zim.
Absolutely, but just to say he's a good guy, I guess it just depends on which side of history you lie,
But I had like
too dumb to be as evil as he wanted to be, and let's not to say nothing of the tall ones.
Go tell the Goombas that fucking Mario's a good guy. See what they have to say.
Yeah, let's get their perspective.
Well, the
on
Goombas
things.
Were bad guys. They were like Nazis. They were working for.
Bowser. We don't know, but I mean. We don't know what their story is.
Also, they're all in painting, so who even knows how much of that was even real?
That's in 64.
Scary.
Scary. But I would say like the
there's Zemos.
Zemos.
Dalton, you were right. It is 6 milligrams.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that
those
shit'll
are
have you on your ass.
It has a skull and crossbones on the back.
Ooh, but yeah, because the nicotine is
Oh yeah, I guess that's just
it's a pirate's life.
Oh no, I've been swallowing these.
You can swallow the spit.
kidding.
You don't swallow the pouch.
It says toxic if swallowed.
Yeah, don't swallow the pouch.
I don't even swallow the spit. I feel like that can't be good for you.
A little bit better, but I'm still lighting.
But
I mean, the pouches are much harsher than a cigarette or even snuff. Like the
I've never had a cigarette and had it really affect me mentally at all.
Yeah, dude, the nicotine pouches, especially the 6 milligram, they'll knock your dick in the dirt if you're not used to it.
My dick is firmly in the fucking dirt.
Yeah, dude. You got dirty dick because of those.
Oh my god, my dick!
Yeah.
I need to get it out.
I did.
I didn't actually swallow the pouches, by the way. It's just funny that there's a. They say not to do that.
I had like a nostalgia moment because like on my Twitter feed, the intro to Hey Arnold came up, and I just had this moment of like reliving my entire childhood watching that. But then I remember like, you know, when you think about like shows back then and how they would more than now explore like adult themes, that was probably like a more terrifying show in that how it like shows you how seemingly insurmountable escape like it's trying to escape poverty is. Like how if you are of a certain class, if you're like impoverished, there's almost no way out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the system is like so rigged against you that if you are like the kind of person who has to live in that fucking tenement that Arnold lived in,
yeah,
you're just like stuck there forever. Like you're just always going to be on the like living on the margins and
Chinese
never
people
really
like it though. You know Kowloon City
from Shenmue 2?
This is like that city where like it was all in like a very, very small area of land.
Yeah, it was just like the walled city. I don't think
it was like Blade Runner. Apparently everyone that lived there like looks back on it fondly and like really like their time.
It looks awesome in Shenmue 2. It does look cool in that video game.
And Blade Runner.
Yeah, and Blade. Yeah. I mean like slum cities, especially like if they're in the future, do look cool.
Yeah.
I don't
think it was in the future in real life.
But you know what looks cool about it is like all the, you know, there's like a bunch of shops and things to do. But if you're fucking broke in one of those cities, like you can't really go enjoy any of them. You can't like, you know, you can't go play Lucky Hit if you have no money.
That's true.
So it's like, you know, it's fun to imagine, but you wouldn't actually want to exist in Kowloon Walled City.
What I'm saying is they loved it though.
Maybe, but I mean, we love everything from our youth, regardless of like how, what the actual material reality of it was, because it's just like a time when we were kids. So
almost all things are like that, where whether it's something from your childhood or a past relationship or even a past like president, the more time that goes on, you remember the good memories and you tend to forget the bad ones.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
I think so. I think we look back, especially like we look back on like our youth with rose-colored glasses because we just didn't have any responsibilities. Like it was just like a time when you're so new to the world that everything seems you don't even know what's going on. Like it's just your reality then, and so it's like looking back on it, it almost has this dreamlike quality because you were just like so oblivious to everything. And then you became aware and you were like, oh man, this actually fucking sucks. I wish I can go back to the ignorance of my youth.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Joey LaFleur, who mentioned me on Show Me the 1099s mentioned that he mentioned me. And shout out to Show Me the 1099s. Vinnie Beetle was.
Oh, yeah. We got a super chat about that. Hate watch number 1 night, 29 minutes, 20 seconds for Robbie joke.
Oh, yeah.
I got it pulled up.
Yeah, we got our podcast warriors on listening to every podcast.
Yeah, it was a nice.
People were mentioned anywhere.
You know, like you remember that guy Jason Scoop?
Jason Scoop?
Yeah.
Was he like an ice cream guy?
He's like a New York comedian who got like kind of chased out of the scene for like beating his girlfriend or something.
No, I don't remember this.
Well,
guy.
now he does like sociopathic like impressions on the street, and he bears a passing resemblance to me.
Oh,
Jason
okay.
Scoop right here.
Yeah,
got you.
that's Jason Scoop.
Says this video is
I
for
don't
comedic
think I
purposes.
remember this guy. I don't know.
He like got like they're watching him harassing Alec Baldwin.
Let's check it out.
Oh,
Jesus.
dude. It's like
I'm just glad Robbie Goodwin's staying busy.
Literally was biting my tongue on that exact same joke.
No, I love Robbie, but he's like a New York guy that doesn't.
Biting his tongue. Robbie, this guy is fucking scared of you.
Connor and I had problems in the past. Joey Joey likes me. He asked me for a Skankfest ticket. He asked me if he could get a hookup for Skankfest tickets because he wanted to see Insane Clown Posse last year.
So these guys all do actually know you.
Yeah, I know all those guys.
Might have been nice to go back just a little to have some context on that
Yeah.
joke, but I'm sure it was just a guy being gay.
Yeah, he says nice things about me after that.
I meant the guy in the clip. But
Oh yeah. So that guy, Jason Scooby, kind of looks like me, also does impressions, and is like he got in trouble.
Is this a bit like all this fucking shit they got on the desk?
We are once again reacting to a reaction show.
I know, but are they like? Is this like their ironic commentary on podcasts, or is this like sincere, like all this like the liquid death cans and all this shit?
I have a feeling that they're probably making fun of.
Are they making fun of that?
I think
because they're definitely not endorsed by any of these.
No,
although
they're not endorsed by grenades.
They should be, because they're fucking bombing.
Oh,
this a decent set. The white wall could use some work. You could throw some paint up on that wall, maybe a dark gray, dark purple, something like that. But they got the Tony Soprano, they got the Patrice, they got some good guys up there.
Yeah, Devin and I had very similar taste. He's got good taste.
Let's see what else they say.
the guy,
impressions.
Yeah.
What's up?
The two guys in the middle kind of look like Lev Furs.
Yeah,
the multi-lev fur of madness. The multi-lev verse.
They look like a couple of fat fucks. Is what you're trying to say.
No, they have black shirts. They're like
the multi-lev furs of madness.
Yeah, they're multi-lev furs.
Well, you wouldn't call a skinny guy lev fur.
I might. I was gonna say all three of them, but Devin.
Yeah, he's not fat, so
give me a break.
Just say what it is,
dude. I'm so dizzy.
So it's a perfect reference for us. For
Elon Musk goes, wow, based, wow.
Did he really?
Yeah, he just wrote wow under it. That's
God, Jesus.
Wow.
Christ.
Then they move on.
Oh, so they went into their what's going on Twitter segment. That's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
$20 from Michael Hall. These guys stink. These guys and Vinny stink. Robbie rules.
Thank you, Michael Hall.
Robbie does rule.
Vinnie Beetle did DM me today to say his luck all changed after he came on Crowder Boys, because I didn't realize when he was on our show and he's like, yeah, I was supposed to be on the last episode of Come Town, but we couldn't make it work. I didn't realize that there was a new one coming out.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
I was like, what the fuck? I thought it was just a weird lie, but
tell him to fucking pay up.
Yeah,
we fucking helped him somehow. I don't know. I don't even understand the logic of what he's saying, but he should give us money.
Yeah, he should get. He did ask if he should start a new podcast called Come Town, and I said, go for it, man. Like he's just gonna
stop you.
There's nothing stopping him, and I guess that would be apropos of somebody who calls themselves Scumbag Vinny to just take the name now.
That's what he said. He was like, it'd be such a scumbag move, right?
But yeah, we're gonna get into why we're here this week here in a moment. I did want to address that. My reasoning. I'm drinking a delicious 7-Up right now.
How come you can see yours?
Because dude, the Sprite can is too it's too minimal. It's too nothing to even show up on camera.
You got to admit that the black lettering is a nice touch.
Well, so that's my thing. Is like I guess like the difference in taste between the two sodas for me is like pretty negligible. I mean, they both taste like lemon lime soda. To be honest with you, like I don't know if I can necessarily tell the difference like in flavor or quality of like the soda itself. I like 7-Up these days because like every every company now is doing this where they're like redesigning everything. They like every company's like redesigning everything to abide by this like new like corporate minimalism. It seems like they're scaling down the designs of just like everything to be as minimal as possible.
That's
For
been going on
what
for
reason? I don't know.
years. It's because hipsters got in 2015, like hipsters were the lead on all the graphic designers were like towards like the Vice minimalist kind of thing.
Yeah, it may be. I don't know like what deeper reason there might be. For,
It's just
like,
a trend. Things go in cycles.
Yeah, I don't know, but the Sprite, the design of the Sprite can used to be like a very loud kind of can. It was blue and green, and then it had the lemon lime logo.
Very
So it
90s.
had, yeah, and then it had like the streaks.
Yeah.
It was to show like the fizziness, I suppose, like the fizzy streaks across the can. So it was like a very expressive can, and now it's just a plain green can that says Sprite.
Yeah, very corporate now.
Yeah, it's very corporate. Whereas the 7-Up can still has some character. Like if you get a can of 7-Up, it's got bubbles. The can is adorned with like green and yellow bubbles, and then wedges of green and yellow to show you lemon and lime. And then the logo itself, 7-Up, which features the red spot, which from the I mean that's the 7-Up spot, but also there was a 7-Up video game called Spot. So it's a very classic, beloved character, the 7-Up spot.
Well, 7-Up, I'll tell you, it's a fantastic logo. It's got to be
great
in
logo.
the top and just incorporating a number into your product. I always feel
I do enjoy the Starry logo. I feel like Starry is very 90s coded.
The Starry is a good design, yeah.
Sierra Mist is trash.
I feel like Pepsi products and Dr. Pepper products are more embracing like flourish with their designs, whereas Coca-Cola is still doing like a very like trimmed down like minimalist design for their products, because the Pepsi can also is like a big bold can now. And I think Starry is like Pepsi's version of Sprite.
Yeah. But that is a thing, like everything in the 90s, everything was kind of Disney-fied. Like if you look at the NBA logos, even 90s versus now, it's crazy how like opposite it is.
Yeah.
And there's that thing going around like the McDonald's that
oh yeah, dude, the McDonald's like jungle.
Yeah.
The McDonald's Rainforest Cafe look versus now, where it's like a
I think that's because they tried to make McDonald's like a coffee shop for some reason for like a few years.
No, but McDonald's just used to be like any fast food restaurant. They were like big, colorful, fun places, and then I think it's like all these companies try to figure out like how to keep their profit margins in the how to keep making more profit each year, how to keep the line going up. I think they just make some decision where they go like, if we like get rid of all this fucking shit, all the statues and animals and ball pits and shit, and just go like strip it down to the fucking copper wiring, and just do the bare minimal basics, we can make like more money this quarter than we did last quarter. And they go, okay, fine, turn the fucking McDonald's into a bank then.
Well, I think McDonald's also made a big play to try to appeal to adults again. Like I'm Loving It was for adults.
Oh,
like that was the rebrand. I remember that was like a big rebrand.
Adults do love stuff.
They got rid of the clown. I haven't seen Ronald McDonald anywhere but the White House lately.
That's Donald McDonald.
That's
Donald McDonald.
Ronald McDonald Trump.
But if we get back to Sprite versus 7-Up, I got to be honest with you. I didn't want it to get too messy on X formerly Twitter last night. I figured we would talk about it today. But let's just say, I mean, my mother taught me it's what's on the inside that counts. I understand the can, is a big deal, presentation, branding, all of that. But I think it's safe to say that the market has decided whether they love Sprite or 7-Up, and it's a resounding.
Oh, they taste the same to me.
But, well, I got to tell you, I don't even think 7-Up is in second place as far as the lemon lime sodas go.
You think Starry's in second place?
I don't know what the fuck this Starry thing is.
What the hell is Starry?
Sierra Mist, I felt like was almost basically, in line with the Sprite. That's one if they
Starry is Sierra Mist. They got rid of
so it's the
Sierra
same
Mist.
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would put that in second probably.
I like the rebrand, honestly. Sierra Mist was too, I don't know. I didn't like
what?
The brand seemed way too much like a Sprite ripoff, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
Starry seems much more like Sprite than Sierra Mist ever did.
I mean, Sprite is delicious. They're all great. The lemon lime sodas are so similar in flavor to me that it's all negligible. Like it's not as distinct as the difference between Coke and Pepsi.
I think that Sprite has by far the most flavor. I think 7-Up is by far the most carbonated and fizzy, which if you like that,
I do
cool,
like that.
but I'm more on the flavor side of things,
Apparently,
flavor town.
Starry is ironically they are doing what they did in the 90s. They're trying to appeal more to kids with Starry because Sierra Mist was just completely lagging behind Sprite. It was not doing anything against Sprite.
Let me see. I did want to present one thing, and then we'll move on to why we're all here today.
We got to get into the episode because this was quite the experience.
But I do need to say I got to show something for my case real quick. Just we didn't really talk about the health benefits of Sprite, which a lot of people are unaware of.
People don't realize, that lemon lime soda is a health tonic. You drink as much as you want; it's actually very good for you.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw this, but a lot of people forget the benefits.
Yo, what's up? I'm just not feeling it.
And nothing was done for me. Oh my god.
Last name ever. Greatest. Like a sprained ankle, boy.
Yeah, so I mean,
I think people.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I think people forget that a nice cold Sprite will serve as the coolant system for your cyborg insides and make you a better rapper. It can rejuvenate your your fucking circuit boards and shit.
And I did talk to Drake's team, and they said that the reason, kind of for the downfall is that Drake started drinking Mr. Pibb. He switched to Mr. Pibb from Sprite, and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
So, you guys drink what you want. I'm gonna go fucking robot crazy mode.
Who cares? Fucking mega conglomerate corporations, they're all evil. So whether you're drinking Sprite or 7-Up, Starry, Mellow Yellow, Mountain Dew, doesn't matter.
They not like up.
You're supporting a pretty despotic, evil empire. Which brings us to Ernest in the army.
Yes.
The reason we're here.
What a film.
A journey.
The Red Barmy.
Yeah, we decided to watch this one for no particular reason on why we picked this one for this day. I just like the title, I guess. I said, hey, let's do Ernest in the Army. Are there any military themed things coming up? When is Veterans Day?
That's in May, I think. No, that's Memorial Day. We did Veterans Day recently.
Okay.
Veterans Day is November 11th.
Okay, so yeah, this is for Veterans Day. We're a little late, but this is our Veterans Day spooktacular. We watched Ernest in the Army. And I mean, what a motion picture this is.
And again, we've talked about, the decision. I don't understand the decision to ever deviate from the Ernest goes to formula in the title. For some reason they say Ernest in the Army, but they did what they did. But I think
for this, so like they were, they were in the writer's room or the pitch meeting or whatever it may be, trying to like figure out a title for a movie where Ernest joins the military and goes overseas.
Right.
Now, this movie, when did this came out, what, like 93?
98.
98. So this was after, this was after like the Mujahideen. This was after the Afghanistan conflict between Russia, and this was when the like Middle Eastern countries like Afghanistan that we once gave like money and guns and everything that were like our allies are now becoming our enemies. This is when like tensions between the Middle East and the U.S. are starting to rise.
The Gulf War.
Yeah, the Gulf
Desert
War.
Storm.
Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and then what would become, the Iraq invasion, War on Terror, Operation Enduring Freedom, all those.
The big kablooey.
Yeah, the Navy Accelerate Your Life commercials. and so it being 1998 and being like a movie, like Ernest has to go in the military and go overseas. So they have to like, Ernest has to go to the Middle East. And so like by this point, they've already done Ernest Goes to Africa, which is just like the nebulous Africa. Like they don't say like a country that he goes to in that movie. And so I suppose with this movie, I guess you couldn't really call it Ernest Goes to the Army.
What about Ernest Goes to War?
That's good. Yes, I guess that could work. Although like this movie doesn't necessarily portray any like actual war.
Yeah, I feel like Army was even misleading.
He is in the Army in the movie, and I guess like the only thing I can think is to like why they abandoned the goes to titling in favor of just Ernest in the Army is because like Ernest Goes to the Army doesn't really make any sense.
Right.
And then they couldn't, probably for like geopolitical reasons, couldn't like make a movie about the military going to another, like an actual country. So they couldn't call it like Ernest Goes to Qatar. You know what I mean?
They should have called it Qatar Hero.
That would have been
Robbie. They should have called it Qatar Hero.
But Ernest has to be in the title, so it would have had to been like Ernest becomes the Qatar Hero.
Qatar Hero
sure. Edition. Yeah.
But the last time we did this, I kind of tried to lead it, but I think we discovered that like much other things that Dalton reviews, this is sort of his expertise. And I think it would be right that he's sort of the Sherpa for this who leads us. And honestly, I'm just happy to be along for the ride as Dalton takes us through literary devices and reasons that things happen in certain arcs.
I'm sort of the Sheik for this.
I still haven't come down from Folly of Ego. I'm still thinking about that one. So I'm excited.
I'm still reeling from this movie. Like my head is spinning from this because this was like Slam Dunk Ernest was like goofy and chaotic and insane.
A lot happening in Slam Dunk Ernest.
A lot, yeah. This movie was like genuinely like bewildering from to watch because this came out in 98, right?
Yeah.
To watch this from through the lens of like we grew up in a post 9/11 world. So to watch this in 2025, to watch this movie that takes place in 1998 was like, you have to watch this and then put together like so much history that's happened since then to like get perspective on what this movie is. It seems like, because it was like do you guys remember like after 9/11 happened? The way I remember the general like the sentiment in this country after 9/11 was that although like we had this idea of like the specific like regions or Arab peoples that perpetrated 9/11, there was just this sentiment in this country that like just the nebulous Arab world was the villain. That there was no distinction or nuance between these countries. They had like, through whatever propaganda campaigns were being run, or however the media was spinning it at the time, they had like the whole country just like in a state of confusion regarding the Middle East, seemingly so that it would galvanize the people or garner support for the invasion of Iraq. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like if you create this like confusing narrative regarding the Middle East for like the people in America, then we'll just view that entire region as all the same thing and just be like, oh, anyone who's like a Muhammad Ahmadullah, kind of like a brown guy is the villain, right?
Right.
So there was like, for the longest time, there was just this like vibe in this country that Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, all these fucking Benghazi, all this shit was all just the same thing. It was those were all just like America hating Muslims, and that's the villain, right?
Right.
Well, prior to 9/11, that was not the case. Like prior to 9/11, there was like, I think like a knowledge or like like more nuance between.
I think they just weren't really aware of like they just didn't know that much about them. They were just kind of like
I'm just like, I'm saying all that because like this movie does a better job of like portraying like the distinction between Arab countries than like a lot of the post 9/11 like wartime propaganda movies we got. Like following 9/11, like a lot of movies came out, like Black Hawk Down and We Were Soldiers, and just all these movies were coming out about like conflict in the Middle East, where it was just like, army guys going to the Middle East, and anyone that's in a turban is like a bad guy.
It felt like to me, and I know that we were young at the time, so I'd like to hear the perspective of people that are like 40 or 50 now and what they thought of, because honestly, I didn't even really know. I don't think that Muslims or Saudi or like Middle Easterns even really existed as people, because there weren't a lot here. But it almost seemed like the sentiment was they showed us guys in the turbans with camels in the desert, and they were like, that's the uniform, those are terrorists.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were like, okay,
yes.
Gotcha. So the turbans are bad.
My mom, my Afghan family said that before 9/11, like no one knew where or what Afghanistan even like they would have to like show where it was on a map a lot to people. Like they were they were like surprised that everyone, like overnight, everyone knew what it was and where it was, basically.
Yeah, I guess there was also that like nobody really knew anything about the Middle East. But at least I'll say that like Ernest in the Army, even though like the countries that the movie focuses on, in which the movie takes place, are like fictional countries, at least does tries to establish like a distinction between like the Arab countries. Like there are differences between like within the Arab world, where they're not all just villains. Whereas like it feels like growing up and experiencing 9/11 and what the world was like after that, and for the longest time, there was a lot of like if Ernest in the Army came out after 9/11, it would have been Ernest being like, we got to go kill all the Dune coons. Know what I mean? Just be like, we're gonna go over there, we're gonna shoot all these towel heads.
Which was basically the plot of 50 Cent Blood in the Sand, the video
Yeah.
game.
What about
Um,
50 Cent's first dates?
Okay.
yes.
50's first cents.
But like in this movie is like Ernest is actually like endeared to the Arab people. Like he and you know, we'll get into it as we talk about the movie, but like he does go over there and like there's like a shared humanity between Ernest and the more oppressed Arab nation and those people.
Yeah,
Where
and it did convey, you're right. It did sort of convey an accurate depiction, which is there are good people there and there's an evil force over there.
Yeah. So there is that, and then but I do wonder like this being at the near the like at the time of the Gulf War, like Desert Storm. Because it's there's also like this tricky thing with war movies, right? That like, you know, they say that like there's really no what do they say? There's like really no such thing as an anti-war movie, or that like even in the attempt of creating an anti-war
It
movie,
makes you look sexy or something. Yeah.
yeah, like even something like Full Metal Jacket, which is like very explicitly an anti-war movie, still can like inspire young men to want to join the military. They don't see beyond just like, oh, this gunnery Sergeant Hartman character is fucking awesome, I'm going to go join the Marines, and they pay no mind to the fact that, you know, it drove Private Pyle into a state of like psychosis where he shot the drill sergeant and then himself, and then the whole sequence of Vietnam, which is just hell on earth. They just go, oh, that, you know, that guy, I like that guy. That guy was cool, so I'll join the Marines now.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But then, oh yes, 999 for Drew Huntley. This film expertly displays Jim Varney's ability to emote through expression, much like a dog portrays emotion through its face. Shout out Mocha Dog, Sumo Dog, all the dogs. It's like 10 dogs, doggy.
That's a great
Thank
point.
you. That's a good point. Yeah, shout out to dogs.
Shout out to dogs.
Yeah. So like with this movie, when you think about like war movies that have been made, where like there's some that are where the director is trying to make an anti-war film, and then there's others which are like kind of just propaganda. As I was watching this, I did wonder like how much of this is just like a recruitment video for the military. And I will say that to this film's credit, whatever its intentions may be, it does portray the military in such a bad light. It makes the U.S. Army seem so incompetent and ridiculous that I will say that it doesn't work as propaganda. There is that. Like it's such a stupid, fucking ridiculous movie that I guess it does effectively serve as an anti-war film, and I don't know what the intentions were there. But yeah, so the movie. I guess we'll get in. Did everybody watch it? Did we all watch it?
Before we before we get into it here, we'll read this first, but before we get into it, for the people who did not watch it, we'll play you guys a quick trailer so you can kind of see.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's a trailer that's going to reveal everything. You know, I think it's just tells you what it's going to be about. AK says it would be cool to see our reaction to Top Secret. Have you guys heard of that movie?
Yeah, I heard it's great.
I haven't seen it.
My dad loves that movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Val sings this. He's in bad shape now, huh?
Val Kilmer.
Yeah. He's not doing too good. He caught the woke mind virus.
Val kill me, is what he's saying. But yeah, we'll watch the trailer. Let's see here. Ernest in the Army. A nice 2-minute trailer here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll watch the trailer. This will be good. This will jog my memory of the movie.
Because we'll try and stay like chronological, the best that we can. Because I did take some notes. I like to take some notes with these.
It's good. Yeah, I didn't take any notes.
He looks like Kumia right here. Now available on iTunes, everybody, in case you wanted to pay for it.
They're subhuman. They're too loud. They're causing all the crime. You know what I mean, Vern? Send them back. Put them on a boat.
I can't find my gun. You know what I mean?
I was just taking a picture of the scaffolding.
It's the Anthony and Danny show.
Yeah, but he couldn't be further from Kumia. He's the sweetest. This Ernest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Army. Yeah, maybe that's it. I'd be an expert on driving those big rigs.
Gentlemen, this is your GMC.
Well, he was almost Kumia right there.
Yeah, big rigs.
And we'll go ahead and get to it since they're showing it right now. But the only thing that I kind of, not the only thing, but one of the things that I liked about this movie is that Jim Varney did get to have a couple little monologues where he's just having fun and displaying his ability. This was one of them. And I feel like he probably referred to this character as Arlie Ernest. Let's play it.
The Napa Sonoma Mendocino 3000. It is the ultimate urban assault vehicle. It has 67 cylinders, 3,000 horsepower, seating capacity 1. It has EnduroFlex suspension, monoflatulating carburation, and all models made after 1997 has the extra large cup holder. The body is solid unibody and is made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Doors are optional.
You know, I don't know that this is a good trailer. I feel like I should find one that
This
kind
is
of.
not really a trailer. I
This
think
is
it's
just
like
parts
a
of the
deleted-
movie.
Seems like a
This is
deleted
just a
scene,
scene from the movie.
Let me see if I can find something better that kind of
Which-
gives you the vibe.
That is a funny joke that they do a couple times in this movie where Ernest will space out and have a daydream, and even within his own fantasy, this is just like him imagining like his ideal life. He's still a stumble bum, klutz, and bad things like mishaps occur. Because
He
like in
knows
that
his he knows
sequence,
his limits.
yeah, like in that sequence, he's imagining himself as like a sergeant who is like showing off this like top of the line military war machine vehicle, and this is his fantasy. It's still like going wrong. Like the car is falling apart, and then like a nuclear, I guess like the nuclear warhead that the vehicle holds falls off, and he has to grab it and get stumble around with it. So they do that gag a couple times in the movie where he goes into a daydream and fantasizes about like what he would like his life to be, and even in his own fantasy, it's bad. It still doesn't go well, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. That makes me think that it might be a commentary on the fact that Ernest is he's so carefree in his life that he believes that things are just supposed to fall and just happen around him like that. Like he doesn't even understand that he would have bad luck or that he's fucking shit up. It's just like in Ernest's mind, oh yeah, things just fall over.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't see that as a bad thing. He thinks that's just what everyone experiences all the time.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, like the world through the eyes of Ernest is.
Through the eyes of an angel.
Yeah. Did you find a trailer?
I'm really not finding any good ones. There's one that at least kind of bounces around through the movie a little bit.
Have a
So
trailer because it was a straight to DVD.
I don't think there's actually like a trailer, like a
I can-
proper trailer for this.
we can
If there's-
talk and we
Ernest's
can just
trailer trash.
we can just kind of show people some visuals from the movie as we talk. a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well,
Just
yeah. So this is the beginning of the movie. So actually, the movie begins with like the sort of like, I guess like it's a trope. It is like a storytelling. Like if you're gonna do a story in the Middle East, it begins with the panning camera shot of like a beachhead with like barbed wire and like this war torn area with like this voiceover narration talking about how the winds of the west will blow and bring forth the American warrior prophecy to I guess like save the Middle East. And so it's like the movie starts with like like Habibi, like like Black Hawk Down music,
Yep.
and this like voiceover talking about how the westward winds are going to bring forth a hero prophesized to save the Middle East or something. And then it cuts to a title card that says Valdosta, Georgia, USA, and we go to Ernest working one of his many odd jobs. We never really get like a concrete in any Ernest movie, like a stable understanding of like place and time. It seems like from movie to movie, Ernest is like somewhere different, working a different job,
Yeah.
and there's no like consistency between like regarding like who Ernest actually is or what his
Who is he, by the way?
Do what?
Who is Ernest, by the way?
Yeah, that's I guess that's the question that runs throughout the entire Ernest for like the whole series. Who is Ernest P. Worrell? And I guess we never really get an idea of like who he actually is, like what his life has been leading up to the movie you're watching, and like what's happened to him to bring him to where he is in this moment. And we don't like, yeah, we never really know that much about Ernest other than, just like what's
He's a
the
lovable
glimpses. Yeah, the glimpses that are given to us like in each movie. But he is this very like enigmatic figure in the movies themselves. And you're just supposed, I guess it's like a storytelling device where you just have to like let go. You just have to go with it and be like, this is Ernest. So like
this is
in
Ernest.
the world of this movie, everybody in Ernest's life knows who Ernest is. They've known him for some time, and they seem to have history with him. Even though this is the first we're ever seeing him interact with these people, and like we don't really know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to. It's just an implicit understanding that he has lived a life, and prior to the events of the movie that we're watching, has established like relationships with these people. Because in Ernest in the Army, he seems to be very close friends with an Army Reserve soldier, like an Army Reserve guy named Ben, who I don't think has appeared in any Ernest any Ernest movie or Ernest anything before this. This is the first we're meeting this Ben character, but they seem to go way back. Apparently, through the dialogue they have with each other, Ernest and Ben are long time childhood friends. They've known each other for some time. So
I thought they were brothers. That's almost the way that the movie made it seem. They really did not define their relationship.
Yeah, we don't get like a too concrete a definition of like the relationship necessarily. I don't think they're brothers. It just seems like they go way back. Like they're basically brothers.
Yeah, because he said something that made me think that was like, oh, you never let me drive. You've never let me do anything. And that made me think they've grown up together.
Yeah, I get it. The movie just kind of hints at the fact that they've known each other forever, but yeah, we don't. There is like this sort of ethereal quality to Ernest, where he almost is like.
It just makes me laugh so much, like the amount of effort that we put into
analyzing Ernest.
Study this movie way harder than the people that wrote it even thought about it.
Yeah, but Ernest is almost like a mythological figure. He's almost like he carries with him this sort of like what's another? I'm trying to think of like another character that's like reminiscent of this. I guess like I don't know, like Bugs Bunny. Something like
Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, he's just like
Mr.
this
Bean.
very
Mr. Bean.
He's like Mr. Yeah, he's like this character that in whatever you're watching of Ernest, it's almost like but like within the world of this movie, this is almost like maybe a different Ernest than what we've seen prior.
Right. I think to me, I've got the impression that like Ernest is the combination of the everyman, where you're supposed to relate to this guy, and the classic trope of main character where you get the introduction where all these bad things are happening to them and you're thinking in your mind, will this guy ever catch a break? Sort of like Hubie Halloween.
Right. He is a Hubie-esque figure for sure.
He is a very Hubie-esque.
By the way, I would like more Hubie movies.
I would like. I do think Hubie could do other.
Hubie should take up Ernest's mantle of going to things, but maybe there's different holidays every movie. You know, Hubie Veterans Day.
Have a Hubie Doobie Christmas.
Hubie 9/11.
Yeah. So I guess you just have to accept the fact that Ernest is
Hubie goes to jail would be pretty funny. The black man almost raped me.
That would be good.
That's good, yeah. Hubie.
Actually, he was more like this. He's more like he's actually a little more water boy or canteen boy kind of.
The Hubie Trippin' podcast. But it's Hubie Halloween instead of Ari Shaffir.
How many trips have you taken? I've never left my small town.
Yeah, I watched that back the other day. Hubie Halloween.
The
lady gave it a spin.
Hubie Halloween's good.
Does it hold up?
It's good because it makes you laugh, and then towards the end you just feel a little exhausted. But maybe I was tired anyway.
Which is how I felt watching Ernest in the Army.
Yeah, I remember it fondly though, and not to get too ahead, but like with Ernest in the Army, it was midday. So I was just on the couch and I was falling in and out of sleep as I was watching it. But when I'd fall asleep, I'd go back and make sure I watched the part that I missed. But it made it feel like it was sort of a dream, which it already kind of felt like.
The movie does have a dream-like quality.
They all operate on dream logic.
Yeah, it is like very Lynchian in that way. Ernest in the Army.
No, you're thinking of Kumia again.
Yeah, when you think about it, Kumia is very Lynchian in his behavior. Yeah, not David.
That's what that should mean.
Racist.
In this day and age,
like the Lynchian just means you're racist,
and beyond racist. Like you honestly want to see people lynched. Yeah, that's like a different level of racism.
Which he does, by the way.
I think he does.
So everyone's clear on that.
I think he would give a hearty Kumia laugh if he saw a man getting lynched.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess like Ernest is like in the spirit of like the Three Stooges or the Marx Brothers or Abbott and Costello, where it's like from movie to movie.
How about Elvis and Costello?
How about what?
Elvis and Costello?
Robbie, please try to stay on topic.
Yeah, this is a serious one.
Come on, man. This is a serious.
Oh, baby, I'm Elvis Costello. I'm here with Costello from The Departed.
I only know Elvis Costello from Austin Powers.
It's not Elvis Costello. It's Elvis and Costello. So he's there with Costello from The Departed. So it's like, hey, everybody, I'm here with Costello. And he's like, that's right. It's me, Costello. That's what the N-words don't know about Elvis.
And Costello is Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, he played Frank Costello.
Okay. All right. Just took me a while to catch up.
And it's also Elvis Costello.
Yeah. We do the Middle East Almadullah music with the voiceover.
Which, by the way, that is the opening of every. How many movies have opened with that exact like hello, like the
I mean, there's tons of like war movies that open that way.
It's like it's next to the Jesus Rio de Janeiro as just like anytime they're in Rio de Janeiro they show that Jesus thing and they use the same like drone shot of it.
Yeah. So Ernest in the Army has it like.
By the way, filmed in South Africa. Ernest in the Army.
Do what?
It was filmed in Cape Town.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's right. I did notice that in the credits that it was filmed in South Africa.
Yeah. Yes, we would love to have.
So that means like just off camera was a young Elon Musk.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
in the apartheid.
Yeah, a young.
Did Ernest comment on apartheid?
This movie can be viewed maybe as a commentary on apartheid.
I think at one point he said, "I don't want apartheid. I want the whole tide." You know what I mean?
There. I guess there is.
You know what? It makes sense because Ernest has a lot of jobs that are a part-time.
Yeah, almost all of them.
Almost all of the movies are a part-time job.
They are a part-time job. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess there is a reading of this.
I need one of those.
There could be. I suppose there could be a reading of this movie that like the conflict.
I put the Zemo back in.
Okay, good. Yeah, please make sure you keep the nicotine going.
Yeah, that's.
But I suppose there could be a reading of this movie that like the conflict between the countries Arisia and Kyrgyzstan are like this movie. Do what?
Kyrgyzstan?
Robbie, please.
Robbie, we don't have a lot of time here today.
We don't have a lot of time, and we have a lot to get to, and I just would appreciate if you would stay focused. But I would say, like, there could be a reading that, like, the conflict between the countries in this movie, Arisia and Kyrgyzstan, could serve as this movie's analog for Israel and Palestine.
Right.
Yeah, like
By the way,
Arisia is the.
Why do you guys think Gotham isn't called Cape Town?
Robbie, please just try to stay focused for when we do Ernest episodes.
Sorry, I breathed into the mic. That was probably bad.
Yeah, just try to,
All right, the pouch is gonna make me dizzy again soon, and
it's very important.
I'll stop talking again for 20 minutes.
It's like really important what we're talking about, and we don't have time for your hijinks.
So as you continue to walk us through, Dalton, so far we've established that there's a conflict going on in this foreign country, presumably the Middle East.
Yeah,
and then we kind of zoom forward to Ernest, and he's working at a golf course.
So we cut to Valdosta, Georgia, which is nice.
Georgia, get your ass downstairs.
Yeah, it is. Yes, Valdosta, please take the meat out the damn freezer, like I told your ass.
Right.
But it is nice.
The original name for Cumtown.
What?
Cape Town, like Cumtown, was that like black people?
I don't know, man. What? Cape Town is white people, dude.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting. Please go back.
We got to do like one joke per segment. we're still on. Ernest has not even the army.
We haven't even gotten into the meat of this movie.
I'm sorry. Let's get back to the review that often takes longer than the actual movie.
Yeah, well, it's a dissection. It's a discussion. I mean, shit, man. When I was in college, we would spend a whole fucking 3-hour lecture on one poem.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. That happens a lot. We did a Sonic episode that was like 3 hours long one time.
So yeah, so we go to we start at the beachhead Middle East, music, and then we cut to Valdosta, Georgia, which is a real place. So like all the places in this movie that are in the Middle East are fictional. Valdosta is an actual city, town in Georgia. I've been there. I was born in a hospital I was born in a little town called Vidalia, but I'm very familiar with Valdosta. I know that area. So that was cool to see. I was like, oh, I've been there. I recognize Valdosta. And Ernest is working at a driving range where he is working the job of like having to pick up all the golf balls.
Shagging balls, if you will.
Shagging, is that what that's called? Shagging balls?
Yes, shagging balls. It was his bag, baby.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so he's the ball handler at the driving range. Like his job is to go out there and pick up all the golf balls that they've hit out onto the range. And another one of his part-time jobs. Ernest never seems to have any like long-term stable employment, which is
Chrissy Mayer does though.
She does have stable employment, yes.
Something I've noticed though is that Ernest does seem to, whether or not the result is what is desired, it does seem that Ernest puts his heart and soul and all of his effort into whatever he tries to do for his occupation.
Ernest is always giving 110%. Now, 110% of Ernest might equal like 40% for someone else, maybe.
That's right.
But he's full. He's definitely has a lot of heart, a lot of spirit, a lot of passion for whatever he's doing, which does make him like almost a like a Zen type character, like a very like
or a Zemo
aspirational character. Because like a lot of us, we work shitty jobs and we're just frustrated and mad all day. Just like my life sucks. I gotta work this fucking bullshit job.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest, like in each, from movie to movie, seems to have like he's working a different like menial job, but he seems perfectly content, like happy with his station in life.
Yeah,
Like
that's what Ernest provides, is sort of an alternative to the way that, because if you relate to Ernest as an everyman, if you're somebody that in any point in your life has been stuck in the cycle where you're going through different part-time jobs and you're there and you're miserable and you're kind of hating it and you're languishing, like you're just looking for the next thing, this gives you an alternative way to live your life like Ernest, which is just sort of the ignorance is bliss model.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's very much like in the spirit of like Christ or the Buddha
or the Friends theme song. You know, your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA.
which is true for Ernest. He does not seem to have much of a love life.
He will be there for you.
He will, yeah.
We'll be there
he
for them.
is a very good friend, yeah.
That theme song is great. I'm sick of the haters, by the way.
Yeah,
That's a great theme
which
song.
does make it does like Ernest's like attitude toward life itself is like very I suppose no one aspires to be Ernest necessarily, but to embody that sort of mindset for sure. Like he does have like a very positive mental attitude.
Mm-hmm.
He's very like positive in his thinking and passion, and he gives all of himself in whatever it is he's doing, which in this movie starts with him like he has to drive out there and collect golf balls.
He does always try his best.
He's always like putting out his like, he's working his hardest.
With all due respect, I'd love to talk with you fellas about Ernest theory all day, but I think it is time to switch gears to Ernest story progression when it comes when dealing with this movie.
Well, yeah, we don't want to get too in the weeds on theory. We need to get into the narrative itself. Yeah, so he's like picking up golf balls, and for whatever reason, driving around picking them up while they're still driving them, while they're still swinging, and so he's getting pegged with golf balls.
Classic.
Yeah, classic bit. Oh, I'm trying to plug in my vape. So what happened? His army buddy Ben, his longtime friend Ben, who we're just now meeting, shows up driving like an army jeep to pick him up, and so Ernest is riding with Ben to go to I guess they're like their local sports bar after work. And in this scene is where we're introduced to a joke that will occur a couple more times in the movie, which is like goes back to something we've discussed on this show before, which is like the sort of 90s proclivity or obsession, I suppose. Like this 90s thing with like ooze and goops and slimes and like really sticky things.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ernest has a box of candy that he's eating called where he says to his friend, he's like, "You want a gooey gooey gummy toad?" And his friend is like, "No, Ernest, those get stuck to my teeth." And Ernest is like, you gotta know how to eat them. You know what I mean? Not many men know how to actually eat them. So Ernest is like stuffing his mouth full of candy, and then his teeth are getting stuck, and he's got this candy all gummed up in his mouth. So he has to go rooting around with his finger to like unstick this from his teeth. And it's so sticky and slimy that he pulls like a big long strand out of his mouth, trying to remove it from his teeth, but it's stuck. And then Ben comes over and cuts the the partially masticated gummy candy. It's really disgusting. To be honest, like these sequences featuring like him eating this fucking candy grossed me out. I was very upset watching this.
Yeah,
I don't. It just reminded me of like a lot of the sort of like gross out things you would see in that era as they pertain to like oozes and goops and slimes.
There are some choices made, whether it's the gummies or the camera angles of the movies, the way that they shoot Jim Varney. It's a choice to try and make you uncomfortable or grossed out.
There are some like visually
Like the
upsetting moments in this movie, like very like
It's like The Substance.
yeah, it's like The Substance, yeah.
I'll tell you guys some things that I've noticed thus far. I noticed about this one, at least in comparison to Slam Dunk Ernest. He was, and honestly, I mean, he had his moments in this movie, but I'd say even overall, but mostly in the beginning, Ernest is much less annoying and bumbling.
Exactly.
In the beginning of this movie, he's sort of more just a guy who's looking for something to do, kind of down on his luck. Whereas Slam Dunk Ernest, he is fucking everything up that you possibly could.
Yeah, and I think that's
his
like
last role as Ernest, so he was more wise, Well,
I think really it's like the difference in like dynamic of like the dynamic of Ernest and like that Ernest has with black people versus Ernest with fellow whites. That Ernest in the company of black guys, he's nervous, he's trying to be cool, he wants to be part of it, and in doing so, his efforts to like become like one of the like friends with black guys, he's embarrassing himself, just being a total ass. Whereas it seems like Ernest in the company of fellow white people is much more comfortable and already more accepted. That he doesn't feel like he needs to go out of his way as much to try and impress them,
right?
And so he's much more effortless in his like behavior, which means there's like less mishaps. He's not fucking up as much.
Is there a Mr. Haps?
Because he's comfortable with white people.
That's
so there is like a commentary on race relations that can be gleaned from these. There's other. You can't just watch Ernest in the Army. There's other texts that need to be, observed in order to pick up on that. Yes, Robbie, did you watch this movie?
I watched the first 20 minutes.
I'm getting the vibe. I'm getting the impression that you didn't watch the whole movie, and you're chiming in with these distractions, these interruptions. Because you don't know how to, you have nothing to contribute to this discussion.
I watched the whole one last time. And
you're coming in. You're just all you have to offer now is chicanery.
I watched the whole one last time, and it went about the same as this one.
No, you have no idea how it went because you didn't finish it.
Yeah, you didn't even finish.
No, I finished Slam Dunk Ernest.
But you didn't finish Ernest in the Army.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It was upsetting to me because of all the racism on screen.
You didn't read the text. No, there's no racism.
I knew that they were not approaching it with a knowledge of the Middle Eastern people, and that upset me.
Actually, no. The movie does approach the Middle East with, some seemingly
it has empathy, but it does not have street knowledge.
Robbie, I'll have you read this chat, and this is from PETA. So,
oh, Peter,
you might want to rethink this the next time.
Yeah.
Peter. I didn't get off work till 6, and then I just tried.
Now Robbie's getting booed. See, boo Robbie.
I didn't realize we were doing this. I forgot we were doing this until today, and I didn't get.
I guess we didn't really like.
I didn't have time to watch it until today.
6. It's all right. No, but no, it's look. The movie doesn't try to teach you about the Middle East or anything, but I do think the movie itself at least approaches the Middle East with more understanding, empathy, and nuance than something like the post 9/11 wartime propaganda movies that we got. At that time, like. Because Ernest, they go to the sports bar together. He's sitting there with his buddy Ben, and there's this fun joke where Ben will say some like wise sage things to Ernest, or is talking to his buddy Ernest, and then Ben will say, "You know what I mean," with full enunciation is sort of a nod to the audience that.
Yeah, that phrase got thrown around almost in a way of a season 1 of Succession where everybody is interchanging the term "fuck off."
Yeah,
there's a lot of people. You get a little kick out of the different people throughout the movie that use this.
Everyone seems to be aware of Ernest's catchphrase in this movie, which
is also a funny commentary because "know what I mean" is such a. It could be a common phrase. So it could be that these people speak in the same language that Ernest does, or they're aware of this phrase, they're in the same circle, or they could just be happening to say it.
They could, yeah. Well, the movie definitely emphasizes it because, like, know what I mean? Is Ernest? It's like Ernest makes it his own. Like it becomes, it's like an Ernest thing because he says, "Know what I mean?" So for his buddy Ben to sit there at the bar and tell him all the cool things about the Army Reserves, and then cap it with, "You know what I mean?" That is very like for the audience, like for us to pick up to be like, "Oh, that's Ernest's catchphrase." Like all of Ernest's buddies knows that they're all friends.
On that point, know what I mean is the last line of the movie, but I won't go too far ahead with that. But know that the importance of that phrase really carries through this movie.
Yeah, so they're watching some fucking news thing, like Channel 3 News, and in the movie, it's the hot news lady on the news. Now, this movie does not feature any women that in any way you would think of as like movie hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like some Valdosta sevens.
She looked like a ginger Molly Shannon.
Yeah, it's like the movie tries to, similar to Slam Dunk Ernest, where it's like just like whatever woman they were able to, pay, it would take the low pay of being in this movie.
But I like that because that's non-conventional, because typically it's a girl, it's like a king of queen situation where it's like how the fuck did Kevin James get this hot ass bitch? Where in this situation,
to
it's
the
like
movie's credit, it is like a woman who is not hot for a movie, but still too hot for Ernest.
Right.
That Ernest is pining over. So it's almost like a realistic version of a fantasy where, like, in real life, if you were, like a dumbass blue collar menial worker in Valdosta, Georgia, this would be the kind of woman you would fantasize over, but not like a Hollywood type of fantasy. It's very like a local lady who's still out of your league.
Right. Exactly.
And so Ernest says something I think me and Robbie can appreciate. Ernest goes, "Man, I wish I had a girlfriend." And I was like, "Me too, brother. I feel you there."
Yeah. That's one thing that I noticed too about this was the typical outfit that Ernest was wearing, and one thing that I noted was just the fact that, I don't know about at the time, but I would say if Ernest were to, if any of us wore this walking the streets in like New York, this is like a fashionable outfit. You've got like a vintage smaller sized hat, you've got a denim vest, and a big you can't tell in this picture, but this is a probably size 2 big t-shirt under the vest. So this is a fashionable outfit.
It's very fashion forward now.
Yeah.
Ernest chic.
Yeah. But yeah.
And so like Ernest's buddy tells him all about how cool the Army Reserves is, because he's like, we don't, in the Army Reserves, like you get to be an Army guy. He basically does like, you get to be in the Army, but you don't have to do any of the Army things. Like you just come show up on the weekend, drive big trucks. It's awesome. And then Ernest is like, wow, I think I like try this Army thing. And so he just goes. Yeah, his buddy tells him, like, you should enlist. And Ernest is like, me enlist in the Army? And that's when his buddy's like, yeah, you just show up on the weekends and fuck off for the reserves. And so then Ernest just goes to the Army, the base, and they like have to rush through all of this to get to the actual movie. So they're just like, welcome to the Army. And he's like, what about basic training? And they go, not for the reserves. And now he's in the Army.
Yeah.
So that's how we get Ernest into the Army.
And at this point, I've noticed that it does bear a similar premise to the Larry the Cable Guy vehicle, Delta Farce, which was a classic in the Amico household.
It is. Yeah, Delta Farce is a progression of Ernest in the Army.
The word farce, it's a little highbrow for the Larry the Cable Guy fan base. You'd think.
Bill Engvall, DJ Qualls.
That was Delta Farce. That was a great film.
It was just one of those DVDs that you would have back in the day. That's a terrible movie, but you watch it 100 times.
It was always at everyone's house. It was always at Best Buy, like the top of the bargain bin.
I don't know if I ever saw that one.
You never saw Delta Farce?
I remember seeing commercials. It was always at Blockbuster. I don't think I ever watched it.
One thing I noticed about the movie at this point as well is that I don't know if it's the earphones I was wearing or just the movie and it's done on purpose, but the sound effects are so much louder than everything else in the movie.
Yeah.
Like the sound
But
effects are deafening.
So then when we actually get into Ernest's dealings, like his dealings with the army, and the movie starts focusing on like the army itself, the movie does do this like something interesting in the way it portrays the army, where it's almost similar to, I guess, something like Stripes, where it's like, you know, it's like a wartime comedy movie, right? But it doesn't make any effort to, like any like other war movies, like it doesn't make an effort to make the army seem glorious for anybody. Like Ernest's motivation for joining the army is he wants to drive a truck. He wants to drive a big truck. But then everyone else's motivations have nothing to do with like actually serving your country. It's like his buddy also just likes driving trucks and just getting to have something to do on the weekend. And then like the colonel on the base wants to be like famous.
Yeah.
So it's like a PR campaign for him and the other guy. Like the other guy who's always taking pictures of him, like whatever his rank is. And then and so they like the way they like bring the movie into like the actual conflict of the movie is like there's this growing tension between these two countries, Arisia and Kyrgyzstan, where like the president for life of Arisia, Tufudi, is bringing on some assault to Kyrgyzstan. Like he's being he's this oppressive force to this other country. So it is sort of like an Israel-Palestine thing, right? And then the army gets word, something happened. There's like word that gets out that the Arisian army and this president have gotten their hands on some kind of like experimental new missile. And so then like the movie starts like juggling too many things, because it could just like do the conflict of like these two countries and then Ernest and all that. But then the movie cuts to like an evil skyscraper where it's the what was the name of this place? It was the FIT, like Financial Institute of Terrorism or something like that. It was like,
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean Wall Street?
pretty much. I mean, honestly, Robbie, yes, that is kind of what the movie gets at. The way it portrays like that the real villains of war, which are the profiteers, is it cuts to this like skyscraper and there's like a Dr. Evil Inspector Gadget villain in there. Just like this
Right.
faceless, shadowy guy petting a kitty cat. And then like his subordinate like talking about how they're going to use the UN to obtain this missile for them so that they can make a ton of money and achieve world domination. So that's where they're able to, the movie is then able to introduce this colonel for the United Nations who shows up at the army base in Valdosta to say that the reserves are now being brought into action. We need to activate this reserve unit, whatever they are, like the 92nd, I think is what it is in the movie, and bring them. We're taking this reserve unit to. Why it has to be a reserve unit, I don't know. Like this seemingly like very important big conflict that's brewing that would require troops, rather than like activate any of the actual active military. They decide to pick the 92nd Reserve Unit in Valdosta.
Yeah.
It's going to be led by this like UN colonel.
Very similar to the way that for some reason in Slam Dunk Ernest, an NBA team was going to be playing this random fucking rec basketball team.
Exactly.
In this
Yeah. It would be like instead of SEAL Team 6 taking out Osama, they sent in like the JROTC of a middle school to do the Osama to get Osama.
And I don't know if you caught this, Dalton, but it seemed like About 23 minutes in, there was some sort of innuendo that was a fisting joke in a PG movie in 1998. Did you catch that?
I didn't. What's the fisting joke in this?
So the guy is about to come in, I believe. The colonel, the foreign colonel, is about to come in and talk to there's the fat guy there that we talked about.
Yeah, the fat general or colonel or whatever he is.
The general, the guy who is American, the guy who's in charge there, and he's got his little assistant with him or whatever. But he's asking his little henchman there. He's like, "How should I talk to this guy?" And he goes, "Iron fist, rule with an iron fist or something." And he goes, "But use a soft glove. You remember last time?"
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that was like referencing fisting. I think it was more of like just a metaphor of being like stern yet like just not going overboard. Maybe
I think that's what they were trying to sell it as. I think it was
you
a little...
interpret. I mean, look, there's no wrong interpretation really. Like everything is open to interpretation. So yeah, I suppose they this Ernest movie made a fisting joke.
It blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, don't you want to start? You want to go in slow and easy.
But
And then
there's
when-
enough plausible deniability there that it
Yeah.
could be like, no, that's not what we meant.
Yeah. Yeah, so this UN colonel goes in and the colonel or general, like whatever that guy's rank is, like the fat guy who runs the army base there. He wants nothing to do with any of this, but because it stands to like further his own interest in terms of becoming like a famous, noteworthy person, he's like willing to go along with it. So he placates this general and is like, "Yeah, you can have my men of the 92nd Reserve Unit here in Valdosta." And so then it's now Ernest, who thought he was just going to get to drive a big truck on the weekends, is now has to go to war. You know,
Yeah.
which is not what anybody wants. Nobody wants the man who's going to lay down his life for you to be Ernest, right? So then this UN colonel is doing the movie military thing where he's like got everybody standing in order and he's delivering some speech to them. And then now we're back to the goops and ooze and slime and sticky things of the 90s because as he's talking to all the men, Ernest is just shoveling these fucking candies into his mouth. These ooey gooey gummy toads, as he calls them. And then the colonel is like, "Ernest, what the what are you eating? What is this?" He's like, "Get rid of them." So Ernest, in his effort to get rid of these candies, just dumps the whole box into his mouth. But remember, they're very sticky. So now he's having trouble chewing up all these gummy candies. And then the colonel is like, "Get rid of the box too." Now this is too outlandish, even for an Ernest movie. Because when here's the goop.
That's the original.
I fucking hated this scene. This disgusted me. This upset me. This whole scene with the candy. Because he tells Ernest to get rid of the candy, so Ernest shovels all the candy in his mouth. And then he tells Ernest, "Oh, get rid of the box also." Then Ernest eats the box. That's just too cartoonish. For a movie, I understand like these movies are supposed to be live. Dude, look at this. Disgusting. I hated this. I hated this so much. Dude, this teeters on like body horror. Like this whole sequence is like brushing up against like something truly horrific. Because like, he makes like Ernest is eating all this candy and then he has a fucking cardboard box in his mouth also. And then the guy punches him and Ernest spits up all the fucking goop, the goopy, oozy candy onto the guy's face. Now the guy is suffocating underneath already chewed up candy and Ernest's spit. And now there's a struggle to remove this like blob of candy and cardboard and spit from this guy's face. Yeah, I found this whole sequence to be really upsetting and disgusting.
It was bizarre.
Yeah. which I guess is, I guess could be a commentary on the horrors of war, like in a similar fashion as to like how Full Metal Jacket, like the first half of Full Metal Jacket is before they even go to Vietnam, right? So they don't even, before they even actually go to war, they're just like that whole first half of the movie is actually more horrific than when they're like in the war itself. Like they get like that. The first half of Full Metal Jacket shows the breaking of the spirits of these men. That by the time they actually go to Vietnam, it's almost like a relief for them. It's like this like release of this tension and a sort of catharsis that they get to experience. That like basic training is finally over. We're done with that nightmare. Now we can finally just go to Vietnam. And so the second half of Full Metal Jacket, though it features all the horrors of the war itself, is not as like tense or horrific as the basic training segment.
Right.
And so that's sort of what we get in Ernest in the Army, that this whole sequence with the Ernest like spitting this candy in this guy's face and all of this is actually more horrific than when they do go to the Middle East. That like you have to experience this like unpleasantness to then feel the catharsis of finally getting to go fight in the Middle East. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just speaks to the psychology of war itself, that you've already fought a kind of war before you actually go to war, when you're like in the becoming a soldier. And so that is sort of what happens here with Ernest, is that he effectively is like fights his own war in this moment with this candy and this UN colonel and all this, that he experiences like the hell of war before he even gets there, so that like when he does get there, psychologically it's almost like this sort of just like release of tension. There's more freedom to be found in the sands of the Middle East than there are in the grasses of Valdosta.
But you know what?
Know what I mean?
You know what war doesn't have though?
What?
Ooey gooey gummy toads.
Yeah, no, there's no ooey gooey gummy toads in Kyrgyzstan.
I also had my first, and I think probably my only audible LOL in this movie. It just caught me off guard. I had a lot of laughs in Slam Dunk Ernest. Really just one out loud laugh in this movie. And it was when the colonel comes up and he tells Ernest, give me 20. And then Ernest reaches in his pocket.
Yeah,
Matt,
I'm not gonna have enough money for lunch. That was funny.
That was pretty fun.
Good bit.
That was a very funny joke. So then they go to the Middle East, and then all the while this news reporter. This is a thing I've only ever seen in movies. I don't know if like local news people feel this way, but this is a news lady who wishes to be upwardly mobile in the world of news. And so she's working for like the local Valdosta news station, and she's like, I gotta get out of this like podunk fucking news station. And so her efforts to do so find her stowing away on a military aircraft to fly to the Middle East to get to be a boots on the ground member of the press. Which I guess is like better to ask for forgiveness than permission. That she's going to get the scoop and get the report on this, and it'll make all of her basically crimes she's committing. Like this is all a crime that she's doing. Those will be forgiven because she'll have gotten such a good story. So then we go with Ernest to Kyrgyzstan. Now, Ernest's buddy Ben doesn't get to go initially because he has like a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
He strokes out, and then there's this really disgusting moment. This movie was full of just so many gross out moments. I did not appreciate the gross out humor. I've never been a
It was like the
gross out.
substance.
Well, at least the substance is like that movie, like a movie that is explicitly like a body horror or
Right.
is playing it for the horror that it is. I can appreciate and like watch that, but a movie where it's not, it's trying to play it for laughs and it's doing these very disgusting things, but it's like tonally dissonant, like between like what's happening versus everyone's reaction to it. That's where I actually, it's all like those like Tim and Eric would always do that, and I always found that disturbing. The sort of enthusiasm with which the characters have approach like gross out moments, like where they're not like reacting as like you should to something horrific.
Right. It was like the Sam Hyde wine sketch.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like this. It's like this. Just it's disturbing in the disconnect between what's happening and how everyone's reacting to it.
So it's like it's like meta comment. It's like almost.
Yeah, it is a sort of like I suppose a meta commentary on war itself, that like the like war is like truly horrific, and it sees like so much bloodshed and death and suffering, and yet there is this disconnect between like the way we perceive it and behave toward it, because it's like it almost like war itself exists in such an abstract for a lot of us, especially here in the States, in the West. Abstract. Damn, if Jim Varney had lived, he would have gotten that job after Godfrey got fired.
He would have been a really good one. He would have
been a great Affleck duck.
Affleck. Wow.
Affleck.
If only.
We missed out on so many great Varney roles.
There's a huge Varney shaped hole. There's a huge Ernest shaped hole in entertainment.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, that was like that. Yeah, that was probably a greater like devastation for us than even 9/11 itself, was the death of Jim Varney.
Which remains a mystery, by the way.
Yeah. But I guess like there is a way to read into these, like the way these characters interact with these like horrifying moments. That is sort of in the way that we interact with war itself. Because I mean, like even now, like over the last like few years, we have been made witness to what's been this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and then Israel and Palestine. And like we're like made aware of and have to bear witness to these like really horrifying events that occur, like children getting blown up, and soldiers getting shot, and limbs are missing, and all these like the hell of war, like we are made witness to.
The Varn of war.
Yeah. And yet, like there is this like disconnect between ourselves and the actual horror of it, because I suppose it's because we can't really do anything about it, and it exists almost as like this abstract, like this very abstract thing that's happening, because it's all the way over there, so we can only see like videos of it and hear reports of it. There's like nothing. We're like powerless in the face of this. And so, like, yeah, it's like we have to, like, our lives have to just like keep going on, and in spite of the fact that like there's like hell on earth happening,
right?
You know what I mean?
Know what I mean?
And I suppose that is exhibited in Ernest in the Army, like these moments of like true horror when he spits the gummies in the guy's face. And he's visiting his buddy Ben in the hospital, and he has to jam the IV back into his arm, and he licks the needle before he does it.
That was that felt a little much for PG.
That was a bit much, yeah. And then
They're
all
really
throughout,
trying to keep it PG.
yeah, all throughout the movie, there's these very like cartoonish yet seemingly kind of disturbing moments that occur. This being a movie of like a war movie, that one reading could be that this is like our relationship with war itself, that it is this like really horrifying, disturbing event that is just always occurring, that we have to just like keep just living in regardless of it, like because you can't let it like the appropriate like because really like the appropriate response to like the wars that are happening currently is to like be freaked out by it and horrified and like truly devastated, but that's not a state that one could feasibly exist in constantly. So you do have to like put it in the back of your mind and just put it to where it's on the periphery, but then continue to live your life. And I think that's like something that Ernest really excels at, is that he's able to bear witness to the hell that is war and still continue soldiering on and still march on. And so I think that's like where I find it disturbing, the disconnect between like Ernest and what he's privy to. But that's why I would not make a good Ernest, I would not make a good soldier. I would not be a good Ernest. Whereas Ernest is
What do you
capable.
think's harder?
What's harder?
Yeah,
I think it's harder to be a good Ernest. Yeah, I think it's harder to be Ernest than it is to be a foot soldier. But Ernest in this movie is both, so that's like a true testament to his character and his strength. We go to the Middle East, Kyrgyzstan, on the border of Arisia, which I mean, if you're a person who enjoys Ernest movies in 1998, might as well be Iraq and Afghanistan. It's just as real as those two countries for any white guy in 1998. In fact, I would imagine people watching this in 98 might think that these are real places. Probably would just assume like, oh, I can't believe that's happening. The president of Arisia is moving in on Kyrgyzstan. Oh, we got to do something about that. So alongside Ernest's plot, there's this other character that's developing that will soon cross paths with Ernest, which is this sort of Aladdin type character who is also named Ben. I think when they meet each other, he says like, "My name is Ben Al, blah 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 blah," and Ernest is like, "I got a friend named Ben." But
and where this kid ties into everything is, remember when we said the movie started and there was a guy narrating with the Arabic music? The guy narrating, they show some shots of him inside of a prison, and you find out that he's part of this resistance,
right?
It's against this whole evil thing. Go ahead.
I forgot. Like, in this Ernest movie, it's like there's basically ISIS. It's basically ISIS has taken prisoners in this Ernest movie. And the prisoners, they're being like kept in this cage. Like one of them is the narrator.
Yes, who is the father of this Aladdin-esque boy.
We find out at the end of the movie that guy, the narrator, is the dad of the Aladdin kid that Ernest befriends, because the kid is like, he's like a street urchin trying to do scams on people. So he's like, he goes up to some fucking, like picnic blanket head, like whatever that fucking thing is they wear, right? And he's like, there are many cults and curses in the streets of Kyrgyzstan, and the charm of Geshua will protect you against them. Is $1. The guy's like, get the fuck out of here. And then the kid steals an apple and runs away. And so then when they're marching on the beach, Ernest, the 92nd unit out of Valdosta, being led by the UN colonel, Ernest sees a jellyfish that's washed up and wants to protect the wildlife and the UN colonel is like, drop and give me 20. That's when Ernest reaches in his pocket and is like, 20 hours? I'm not going to be able to afford lunch later. And so, but then Ernest is made to do push-ups on the beach in the sand, which I feel like would be difficult. And we're back to the fucking ooze, dude. This disgusting ooze that is so prevalent throughout the movies of this era. Ernest has to do push-ups, and his face is mashed into this jellyfish. And the movie,
The Swimicus Fasticus.
yeah, what is he called? I forget what it's called. He's like something swim fasticus or something.
Something like
He
Swimicus
tries to say like the
Fasticus.
scientific Latin name, and it's just nonsense.
Huh.
But then the movie, the way it portrays like a jellyfish is that I guess it's like actual jelly. I don't think this is how an actual jellyfish is in real life. Like that, if you make contact with one, that it like sticks to you and becomes like this stringy mess.
It didn't make any fucking sense.
It didn't make any sense. This was another just like dumbass sequence where they wanted to incorporate this fucking ooze, like more goop and slime and fucking sticky shit. And so Ernest has to do push-ups into this jellyfish, which is not stinging him, by the way. It's just like sticking to his face because it's jellyfish. It's jelly, I guess. And then Ernest ends up doing like 1,200 push-ups by accident because he's stupid, right? Now the whole unit has moved on past him. He's in the beach. He's at the beach by himself. And that's when this fucking Aladdin kid runs up and sees an easy mark and says, there are many cults and curses in the desert, and you'll need the charm of Yeshua to defeat them. And he's like, $50 US for Ernest. Now he's pitching this scheme to Ernest. Now it's $50 for Ernest, and Ernest is like $50, whatever. And
what do you need $20 for?
Ernest P. Warlberg.
Yeah.
Ernest P. Warlstein.
It's funny because it's actually the opposite of that.
They actually do the opposite of that, where it's like Ernest is so stupid that the kid is like, okay, I could do 60. And Ernest goes, 65. That's my final offer.
Oh, that's a class. That is a classic.
That is a good bit. Yeah. And so then Ernest goes, I only have 100. And the kid is like, I will bring you your change. And then he takes $100 bill and runs off. And then Ernest is like, boy, I feel bad taking advantage of a kid like that. But now he has the charm to ward off against like the fucking spirits of the Middle East or whatever. So then we're back on base. Ernest is something. They got these new fucking landmines that look like rocks, and Ernest throws one and blows up the Colonel. But it's very Looney Tunes, where rather than turn the Colonel into a mist of blood and viscera, it just blows up the porta-john that he's in, and then he walks out in tattered clothing and toilet paper, and he's like, "I'll be in my office or whatever."
That was my
go in there.
That was an
do not go in there. Yeah.
That was an audible why would you do that for me, because they're passing around, it's identical, right? One is a rock, one is a landmine, and they're switching them all up. It's like a 3-card Monty going on by the time it gets to Ernest, and it's left with him.
Monty.
He's the last one in the line, and then the Colonel goes, hand me the mine, Ernest. He's looking at them both. They look the same. He can't tell. So he hands him one. Tell me why on God's green earth would you throw this other rock? Why would you
With
do
the possibility that it could be a landmine? I know. Why would you do that?
Why? It didn't. It's what?
Yeah.
Why did he?
I mean, at
throw
the very least, like Ernest has done. Like at the very least, Ernest should be getting a dishonorable discharge, if not court-martialed for his behavior.
Even if it was only the rock, it would have went through the porta-john and like hit the guy in the head, which we find out, no spoilers, is a devastating fucking move. The rock to the head. We'll talk about that later. Jesus.
Well, yeah. Well, that brings us to the pancakes. So like Ernest blows up the fucking Colonel, the U.S. Colonel, who has now had the Looney Tunes explosion where he's just like covered in soot and his clothes are tattered and he's got toilet paper all over him. And he's got to go clean himself up. And then Ernest is like, I'm going to go make my... Ernest somehow is like in the... I guess like part of the infantry, but also the cook for this unit. And so he's like, I'm going to go make my special pancakes for everybody. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'll be sure to warn everyone."
Well, Ernest is always trying to provide for everyone, just like in Slam Dunk Ernest, he's trying to make the lemonade for all the boys playing basketball. He's like trying to take care of everybody, but it doesn't seem to. It misses the mark.
Yeah, and so then something happens where the movie does create like further exhibit the distinction between two different Middle Eastern peoples, where you see a group of young, I'm just gonna say it, towel heads is what the movie is saying. I think it's like young brown kids in fucking white robes and turbans beating the shit out of somebody. And Ernest is like, "Hey, get away from them, you sand ends!" And I was just trying to take some pictures of the scaffolding, and so he runs off the evil brown people and finds the kid who sold him the Aladdin kid, and the kid is like, "I am forever in debt to you, Mr. Ernest. Here's your money back. I love you. I'm forever your friend now," or whatever. And so then Ernest is like, "Come on, man, make breakfast."
Well, let's not rush over this part, because this may have been my favorite thing that happened in the movie. Because I don't know if you noticed, but after he helps the kid Ben, who tried to scam him, which, it's a kid, but still, you might be a little mad at the scam, whatever.
Right.
But this is Ernest we're talking about, who is like a loving, friendly guy who doesn't care about things like money, that sort of thing. A worldly guy. So the kid still has his 100. The kid is like, "I'm forever indebted to you." This is literally what he says. He goes, "Here's your money back plus more." So other money that the kid had made. Ernest takes the money. What I'm expecting at this point is Ernest to go, "Oh no, you need that money more than I do. You know what I mean? You can keep that money. Don't even worry about it." Ernest casually takes the money from the kid and continues the conversation and says, "What's your name?" And it's never he took the kid's money and money that wasn't even his. And never even said anything about it.
Yeah, Ernest is like, "You're goddamn right."
Which I thought was a little uncharacteristic of Ernest.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the right thing to do. I just remember we missed that there is a connective tissue in this movie that like does kind of connect it to the extended Ernest universe. Like you do get some semblance of time and space. Where I just remember that when they're at the sports bar together, Ernest and his army buddy, his friend in the reserves, his friend makes some comment about like camp or whatever, and Ernest is like, I was a camp counselor once.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie does like have some sort of like connectivity with other Ernest titles. Like I guess it does try to create like a more connected universe. Even if it is just the one line.
The Worrell Cinematic Universe.
The Worrell, yes, the P.
Wow,
Worrell
that sounds fucking
Cinematic
amazing.
The Moral Nicomatic Universe. Oh wait, no, that's not good.
The Morrill Nix.
The Brunson verse.
The Brunson verse.
The Jalen verse.
The Nick Verse.
We call it a Spike Wee joint.
Spike Wee.
So yeah,
Do the
so
white
then,
thing.
yeah, so the kid,
the white thing.
Do the white thing.
That could have been an alternate title for that movie. Do the white thing.
That's why I laughed. I was like, that actually is
That's good.
kind of a good read on the movie.
So so this is when Ernest saves the kid from the bad Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
This movie 1998, there's still in 98 good Arabs and bad Arabs before they all become bad. This is before 9/11.
Right.
So he saves the kid from the bad Arabs, and then that's when the kid is like, "My name is Ben Al Hassan, whatever, some fucking, whatever." And then that's when Ernest is like, "I got a friend named Ben." And so from that moment forward, the Arab kid's name is Ben, and Ernest is like, "Come with me to cook pancakes for the guys." And now we have another disgusting sequence of events that occur with this cooking segment where Ernest is, and like to Jim Varney's credit, he like the carrot, like the the sort of like a cartoonish portrayal, like the character he puts on of like a French chef, like a cooking show character. He does a little skit in this sequence where he's like "Bonsoir, mon ami," and he's like presenting it as like a cooking show to this kid. But then like the way he actually prepares these pancakes is just it's upsetting. It's vile. It's more just like gross out humor of this movie. Which there wasn't like gross out stuff in Slam Dunk Ernest. This movie really leans into and I feel like this was very much prevalent in the 90s, like gross out comedy. It was like just like like gross thing. Like there's something about Mary did this. Dumb and Dumber had gross out segments. Kingpin. I mean, I guess like honestly, like Fairley Brothers movies do like gross. They were all doing gross stuff. But yeah, so he's cooking. He's cooking pancakes, and he goes. So we start with the eggs, and it's like it's all operating on cartoon logic because Ernest doesn't crack the eggs and pour them into the bowl. He just throws a bunch of fucking eggs into the bowl, which you couldn't do nowadays. Now that eggs are $9 a dozen because of this avian flu going around, you would need to be a little more precious with your eggs now. But this is in the heyday of the 90s when eggs were just, but probably honestly, maybe a dime a dozen. Actually, they might have been actually a dime a dozen. So he just throws a bunch of fucking eggs into the bowl, and then he's very slapdash and haphazard with the pancake mix. He's like, now we do the mix, and then and so there's fucking eggs and fucking pancake mix flying everywhere, and the kid is horrified by what he's watching. And then Ernest is like, now we add water to mix. And then Ernest just grabs a water hose and sprays it into this fucking bowl and stirs it very minimally with a whisk, not enough to mix up these pancakes effectively. And then he goes, it's a little thin. We need to add more mix. And so here's where we have another cartoon moment where Ernest goes to grab the pancake mix and instead grabs something called Tank Patch, which is to some sort of binding agent for tanks, to repair tanks. And so he dumps it in there and then whisks up these pancakes. And then he's like, now we need to test the grill. And this is actually kind of a funny moment where he licks his finger and you think he's about to go on the grill, but then he just presses his tongue into the grill, which I thought was a funny misdirect, though it still is gross. It did get me, and now there's a sort of who's on first joke they do between Ernest and Ben, where Ernest's tongue is stuck out and stuck to this grill. And he goes, "Then hand me the spatula," and the kid is like, "Baba, Alibaba." And then when the kid finally grabs what Ernest is pointing at, he goes, "Oh, we just call these spatulas." That's a funny joke.
Yeah.
And then Ernest is able to unstick his tongue, and he makes these pancakes, which are full of automotive repair, some kind of borax for tanks, I guess. And so now, in this actually is foreshadowing for the climax of the film. You think this is just a funny sequence of cooking mishaps? These pancakes actually become very important to the plot of the movie. Because as Ernest is trying to serve these pancakes to his unit, they're so dense and heavy that he's having trouble lifting them. And then when he drops them onto the tray, these army boys can't even lift them up. And one drops into a guy's foot, smushes his foot. He's injured. And then, one of the guys brings Ernest a pancake and goes, "Have you even eaten one of these?" And Ernest's like, "Sure." And then he tries to take a bite out of one. He can't even sink his teeth. They can't even cut into these fucking things. Ernest finally manages to break a chunk off, and he's trying to chew it. And he's like, "It needs a little syrup." And then he does something that you wouldn't even do with actual syrup. You wouldn't do this. If you take a bite of a pancake and go, "Oh, these need syrup," you would add the syrup onto the rest of the pancake, and future bites will have syrup. But he's got a piece in his mouth, and then he goes to drink syrup to go with it. Which I would not do that. I would say this bite was whatever. This pancake needs syrup. Further bites will have syrup. Future bites will. The rest of the pancake will have syrup. This one just was without syrup. But Ernest grabs another, he grabs what he thinks is syrup. It's motor oil. And then he just drinks a big mouthful of motor oil to go with this dense pancake that's not, that's inedible.
Yuck.
Yep. And so now Ernest has a one of these like hefty steel toe pancakes with a chunk taken out of it, and he goes to toss it, and it's such a force. The pancake is so dense and heavy that it pierces the side of an armored vehicle. And so Ernest takes the kid Ben over there, and he goes, "Yeah, the army hates it when you punch holes in their Humvees." And he pries his pancake out and then puts it in his back pocket. And then I guess we should probably skip along because we're already about 2 hours into this.
Yeah. It doesn't take too long to explain.
From here it starts to speed along, and then we get to the president for life of Arisia, who is this sort of, I guess, like in this movie, I guess they try to make him out to be sort of like a Gaddafi figure. Maybe not Gaddafi. I don't know. Like he's just like one of these. He calls himself president, but he's more of a dictator. Which
This is him, by the way, when his turban fell off, which he bears a resemblance to a certain slithering creature.
Yeah, this is President Louis J. Tafuti of Arisia. Damn, I didn't even catch that when I watched it earlier today.
Where's Ernest at, doggy?
Where's Ernest at, doggy?
Yeah. And so now we go into the actual geopolitical conflict between these two countries, Arisia and Kyrgyzstan. And this guy's got a missile that the UN wants, but no one knows that the UN, that there's also this nefarious like financial terrorist group that's supposed to be like like the movie standing for just like warmongers that wants the missile, and so they capture the UN colonel and the news lady, and they strap the UN colonel to the missile, and they're going to do a Jackass 2 Johnny Knoxville with him.
Now I want to say too, this happens at about 48 minutes in the movie, so around halfway. Or a little over. What's funny about what happened here is that the colonel is out in the desert with the reporter, and he's got the hots for her. And Ernest,
the colonel attempts to rape the reporter, and she's saved by ISIS.
It turns out that at least in this moment, ISIS is the good guy because they prevent a rape.
Yeah, the UN colonel, who's like some British guy, tries to rape the reporter, and he's like, "Nobody ever says no to me." And then she's at the just in the nick of time is saved from getting raped by a UN colonel by basically ISIS. They show up with guns and take them hostage, and she's like, "Phew." I was so close to getting raped until ISIS showed up.
And one part that I enjoyed just 4 minutes later, I thought I couldn't I thought I couldn't love Ernest any more than I already did. But they're sitting there watching the news on monitors, and Ernest goes, "Hey, you get wrestling on this thing? The Undertaker's on Monday Night Raw."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, that just maybe made this worth it.
Yeah, Ernest is a big wrestling fan. Boy, if Ernest could have lived to see John Cena turn heel, I mean,
it would have blown his fucking. We would have seen an Ernest face like never before.
I mean, honestly, if Jim Varney had lived, you probably would have seen Ernest. Like at some point, Ernest would have shown up.
It's funny you mentioned that, Dalton, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's so weird how shit works with the shit that we talk about, because there were memes circulating from people who have nothing to do with us, just I guess Southern people that know who Ernest is. That people were doing memes comparing the John Cena face change once he switched heel to Jim Varney.
He did look like Jim Varney.
Yeah, there were Jim Varney memes about John Cena.
Yeah, like the face he makes, he does resemble Jim Varney when he does the heel face.
When Worlds Collide.
Which by the way, you know, I don't want to get too far off our Ernest. I don't keep up with the wrestling. I watched that Elimination Chamber clip and truly had no fucking clue what was. I was like, why is Travis Scott here?
Everybody was wondering that.
That
That wasn't.
What the fuck is going on in
actually hurt that
wrestling?
guy.
That wasn't just a you thing. We can further explain that in the Patreon a little
I
more.
got in
Okay.
an article
I'll
for
help
my
you out
tweet
with
about
that.
that, by the way.
You say what?
I got in an article for my tweet about that. I said,
Oh, nice.
because Travis Scott like hit Cody Rhodes and like actually hurt him.
Yeah.
And I said, you can take the man out of the Astro World Festival, but you can't take the Astro World Festival out of the man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that the last thing I'll say about it is that Mike Tyson, around 1998, probably right around this time that this movie was made, was in several angles in ring with contact with many different wrestlers. Never hurt a soul. Never hurt a fly.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, we're talking about.
Wow.
And skinny little ass Travis Scott goes out there once and fucking busts
Why
Cody's
Why
eardrum
would you do that?
before WrestleMania. What a dickhead.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think if Jim Varney had lived, we would have seen Ernest at WrestleMania at some point. Like they would have figured out a way to get him in there. But oh yeah, so when Ernest decides to go rogue and defy his unit, like his march orders to go into the desert to save this news lady, this is when like a lot of the plot that like what do they call it, lampshading or just like foreshadowing. This is when a lot of things start to pay off for the movie, because like when earlier in the movie when Ernest's buddy Ben, who's in the reserves, pitches enlisting in the army to him, Ernest says, "I can't go to the desert, my lips peel."
Another gross ass part of the movie.
Another fucking disgusting sequence where Ernest is like wandering through the desert and then peels the fucking outer layer of his skin off his lips.
This happens multiple times in
my
the movie.
lips are peeling. And then Ernest goes to drink from his flask and it's all dried up, and he goes, the desert has diverse effects on chocolate milk. And so he's got, he's such a grown man child. He's got fucking chocolate milk in his arm.
That was a very Hubie moment.
That was a very Hubie-ass moment.
Hubie Dubois.
And then Ernest finally comes. And by the way, somebody in the chat said, like, I thought ISIS was recent. It wasn't actually ISIS. It was just like a nebulous era bad guys. And I'm just saying basically ISIS.
Yeah, just giving you something to reference.
Yeah, just like the Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS, whatever brown guys you want to say, saved the news lady from getting raped by the UN colonel. And then Ernest finally finds the base for the president, to Louis J. Tafuti and his men. And the sign on the fence says poison tipped barbed wire or whatever. And Ernest speaks to the camera and is like, poison tipped barbed wire is no match for a man such as myself or whatever. And then he goes up to the fence and grabs it. Turns out it's actually an electric fence. And then he gets electrocuted Looney Tunes style where he's like, blah, 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 and then he falls down. And then when he gets back up, there is an Ernest-shaped hole in the fence that he is now able to maneuver through. And then in his celebration of getting through this, accidentally electrocutes himself again. But he's on the other side of the fence now. So when he gets back up, he's able to just march right into the camp.
Drew Huntley with a good counterpoint here.
It's a kid's movie.
It is a kid's movie. And that's a good point, but it's I don't know. It's another one of those things that's up to interpretation.
It's up to interpretation,
It's an interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got.
So I'm trying to
the
think.
current situation.
We totally missed the other sequence where like the daydream fantasy Ernest has, where he imagines himself as like a Lawrence of Arabia character, who's delivering this grand speech in the desert, but then even in his own fantasy is swallowed by the sands of the desert. Not quicksand necessarily, but just like loose dunes. Like he sinks into the sand.
Yep.
Oh wait, what is this? $5 from AK. Does anyone know if Dalton thinks grossness was okay? I don't, don't get glib with me.
So the
Thank you for the
current
money.
the current situation is that Louis J has
Louis J. Tafudi
the newswoman
has
and
the
the colonel
proton
hostage.
Yeah, he has them hostage. He has the proton missile that that they need to get from him because it's basically he has a WMD. He has a weapon of mass destruction that they want to get from him. But he is planning on using it to initiate a reign of terror and take over more of the land to assume dominance over Kyrgyzstan. And so he straps the UN colonel to it, Johnny Knoxville style, and he's going to launch this missile into the neighboring country with the colonel strapped to it. But then the colonel himself, the UN, wants this missile. They want to seize. The UN wants the missile, and then the army, the fat army colonel that leads the 92nd Reserve Unit, he wants the missile to get all the fame and glory.
Everybody wants this missile
'Cause
for
he
their
wants-
own personal desire.
They all want it for different reasons. This missile serves as sort of the MacGuffin of this movie. That everybody's trying to get this missile for some reason. It's the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, right? And so then so now the Aladdin kid is trying to find Ernest to help him out because Ernest tells him that you never leave your buddy. You never leave your buddy, right? And there's a joke that got me where the kid is like following Ernest's tracks in the desert, and he comes up on some debris or whatever, and he bends down and picks something up, and it's like the skin that peeled off earlier.
Yeah.
The kid goes, lips. I thought that did get me.
That was
a
very
good joke.
funny.
Yeah. So then the kid makes it onto the Tafudi's base, and now everyone's in danger. Ernest, the news lady, the UN colonel, the kid himself.
Because nobody would go to save these hostages, and Ernest took it upon himself. He's like, fuck it, we got to go do something. So Ernest goes on his own, leaves the kid. He's like, you'll be safe here. The kid follows him. Now they're there trying to handle the situation.
Right. And I suppose like as far as like a geopolitical commentary, ultimately what we're witnessing is like the needlessness for war. That war in itself is like it is stupid. Like war itself, I mean, war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it
so
again.
It's like this movie, and that is something I can appreciate from this movie is that the way it portrays war, these conflicts, is like in such a cartoonish fashion that it does exemplify how idiotic war itself is. That war does not serve to benefit, any people necessarily. It only serves to like line the pockets of those that manufacture war, because that's what we get. That's like what we get with this like financial institute of terrorism. Like that's what's going on there when we cut back to that guy with the kitty cat. Is that like all of this is happening really so that some bigwig, some fat cat can get rich, which I don't know like how many war movies have actually like explored that as much. Like this movie makes it very obvious, it's so overt, but it is overt. It is like it is a cartoon, it's almost like a kid's movie, but it actually effectively does demonstrate the dynamic between like the elite, like the wealthy, and the generals and people in charge of the military, and the foot soldiers themselves, and the locals in these like war torn regions. Like the movie is like very obvious and overt about like those overt, like about the distinction between like these players within a war, right? Which I guess like this could serve as like an entry into understanding war and geopolitics. Is
Derek and
this movie.
Geopolitics.
Derek and Geopolitics, yeah. Because the movie is like so cartoonish about it. It makes it like, there's not as much like nuance or ambiguity. The movie doesn't explore the gray areas or ambiguity. It goes, here's like the real bad guy, and then here is like the Middle Eastern like warlord. But the real villain is the guy who's trying to benefit from these conflicts, right? Which is, that is like an interesting dynamic to explore, especially in an Ernest movie, right?
Yeah.
So to really wrap up sort of the end on what happens,
war is Helen Ehrlich. That's what I say.
Jesus Christ, dude! And just another New York person. No one knows who the fuck. Well, yeah. So then everything comes to fruition. Like everything starts to pay off because like now the Louis J. Tafuti, the president of Arisia, lines Ernest and the news lady up for firing squad, but Ernest keeps like distracting them with his pleas, and it buys enough time for the Aladdin kid to get into a Humvee and interrupt this, drive over them. Ernest takes control of the Humvee and they drive out into the desert. Where the desert is littered with these rock mines from earlier, and so Ernest goes. And so now, the man that Ernest is and all of his experience now get to be brought into the fray. And Ernest does know how to save a life.
Wrong.
Ernest knows how to save a life because they ask Ernest like, "What are you going to do?" He goes, "I'm going to do what I do best." And now Ernest recreates the method by which he picked up golf balls at his other job, but for these landmines. So he sits in the front of this Humvee on the exterior with a makeshift net that he's fashioned. And as they drive through the desert being chased by Louis J. Tafuti and his men, he's casting these mines behind him and blowing up their Humvees. And so when we get to the final confrontation between President for Life Louis J. Tafuti and Ernest casts one last mine at him, which turns out to actually just be a rock. Because, the mines look like rocks, so he doesn't know, you never know.
This fucking part, man.
Yeah, and so then when you think that Louis J. Tafuti has gained the upper hand and is now finally going to eliminate Ernest, Ernest reaches into his back pocket and grabs the partially eaten pancake from earlier and frisbee golfs it at the President for Life, Louis J. Tafuti, and bashes him on the head with this pancake, therefore eliminating him somehow. It doesn't kill him, but it's alluded that it makes him retarded because his like right-hand man Kabi says, "You are now damaged for life," and drives away. So it's they just like make the claim, I suppose they assume that the pancake was so dense and heavy that he now has permanent CTE and is like like Jake Shields retarded.
And he turns around the vehicle and they just leave. And that's it.
They just abandon their guy, the Arab guys abandon Louis J. Tafuti and they leave now that they've seen their leader humiliated and embarrassed by Ernest and his fucking pancake. And
if only they would have known. If they would have hit the 9/11 hijackers with a rock in the head, they would have just turned the plane around and landed it, and everything would have been fine.
And so now they go to do the good and wholesome thing of saving the UN colonel. They cut him off the missile, and surprise, surprise, twist: the UN colonel now holds the news lady at knife point. He's not going to rape her this time, but he does tell them that the missile is mine, because it turns out the UN colonel is actually trying to procure the missile for the Financial Institute of Terrorism. They're going to pay him $100 million for this missile. And so that's the whole reason he's actually there. And so then Ernest maneuvers to dispatch of this malefactor colonel. And what exactly happens here? Like they somehow launch the missile, and then
it doesn't, dude. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Somehow somehow they launch the missile, and you think it's going to explode with the Colonel, but then it just like the missile just goes into a dune, and the Colonel is like lodged in the sand with his legs kicking out.
And there's like a small explosion. So I
There
guess
is like a small explosion, but the missile does not seem to be as destructive as the movie led it to be, which is why I say that it serves as more of a MacGuffin than anything.
Yeah.
You know,
An egg MacGuffin?
An egg MacGuffin, yeah. And it's really like, I guess the fact that the missile itself is not as destructive as they thought, it does serve as like a prescience to the efforts of George W. Bush to discover WMDs in Iraq. Saddam, as far as we know, never had any weapons of mass destruction. And so the movie is showing us that this missile itself is not this like destructive force they thought it was. I think speaks to, I don't know whether they predicted this or saw it coming, or it's just a coincidence, this prescience that the invasion of Iraq does kind of mirror this conflict that we see between Arezia and Kyrgyzstan and this missile, that it was this completely erroneous invasion by the Bush administration to further his own political agenda and his own means to, actually line the pockets of the real life financial institute of terrorism, Dick Cheney. That was the whole, that the U.S. leveraged the events of 9/11 to further the Bush administration to further his own ends and invade Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. And it was this completely pointless, senseless invasion that saw the deaths of thousands, all for the benefit of just a very few wealthy elites to make them richer. Which was the ploy in this movie between the UN colonel and the Financial Institute of Terrorism, or whatever it's called in the movie, right? So yeah, I mean, that is the way in which, and this is watching the movie through the lens of having lived through 9/11 and the years succeeding that, but it isn't, it's a way a new way to like you can interpret an older text that. Though this was released in 1998 prior to everything I'm talking about, it's still relevant and can be interpreted from the perspective of myself, someone who witnessed 9/11 and has lived in the aftermath of that event my entire life. All of us have.
Can I tell you why this movie so deeply scarred and upset me?
Why?
So, if the true ending of the movie is the ending of the conflict, which is the Louis J. Tafuti getting damaged for life, and what his friend said. The reason that hurt me so badly, that I was so disappointed. Let me explain something that we didn't really cover in the beginning of the movie. Now, when it comes to me, I'm wrestling minded. Everything relates back to wrestling for me somehow. That's how I'm looking at everything in my life. So the movie starts, right? We already told you that Ernest had the golf job where he's out there shagging balls, baby. And he's picking them up, and the golfers are swinging at him. They're hitting at him with balls. Another thing that happens when the movie first starts and they're in the Arabic countries, the Louis J. Tafuti, his nemesis, also is hitting golf balls.
Oh, yes.
He's also hitting golf balls. And from this point on, I start to notice, in like a promotional sort of way, every time they show, I'm just going to call him the Muslim, because that's what I wrote in my notes. I'm going to read my notes. Every time they show him, he's either hitting golf balls, he's polishing his club, and now I'm thinking, we now await the main event, Muslim versus Ernest in a golf ball match. That's what all of this is leading to. They're building it up every time.
Ernest Gilmore? You wanted the movie to be Ernest Gilmore?
Yes.
That would have been a much more fun ending. Well, they had to do a golf tournament.
Gilmore.
Well, I wasn't even thinking like golf tournament. I was thinking like kind of what they did a little, but I was thinking the guy was gonna be hitting like explosive golf balls at him, and Ernest had to like shuck them back, and then he hits him
You
with it.
thought golf would be more involved in the climax of the movie.
I was led astray, but led to believe that golf would play a major role in the climax of this film.
You know what, correct? You are right. That's actually the failings of the writer of this movie, that they did not, that they made focus so much on like the golf aspect, like this Louis J. Tafudi being a golf enthusiast, but then to not deliver on that in the climax, they're wrong.
That had to be a rewrite.
The writer of this movie is wrong for not factoring that into the climax and not making golf more of a thing. So you are right, but there should have been more golf.
What they easily could have done, never show the fucking Louis J. Tafudi guy doing anything golf related, and then Ernest's skills still work for the way that he ended the movie, but they put almost more emphasis on the Louis J. character being into golf than even Ernest was. Like golf was that dude's thing, and then it led nowhere. There was no golf climax, which I was very hyped for.
Now that you mention, there should have been a golf climax.
Exactly. And then I put this in my notes. I say, this is how they wrapped it up. I'm fucking steaming.
That's when Tiger Woods busts a nut. That's a golf climax.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Oh yeah.
I said Ernest hits terrorists in the head with a rock. The guy in the car next to him turns to him, says, "You are damaged for life." There's a bad laugh dubbed and edited in. They drive away, and that's the last you see these motherfuckers.
The last we see, yeah.
I put WTF, no golf, 5 question marks.
Yeah, there should have been more golf. Ernest saves the day with a kind of golf that didn't even exist yet, frisbee golf, but disc golf. But that wasn't even a fucking thing in 1998. So the movie was not even doing a disc golf joke. They just had the pancake they still had to use.
I was like, what kind of exploding golf balls is this guy gonna hit at him? And then Ernest uses his moves, and they just did not fucking deliver on that.
They did not. Yeah, they
real bait and switch.
Ironically, they dropped the ball on that.
Yep.
They dropped the golf ball.
Yeah, if you ask me.
They dropped the golf ball.
Below par, if you ask me.
Yeah, this was a bogey.
Yeah, I give this movie a 4. Exactly right. 4 out of 10, that is.
Yeah, so Louis J. Tafudi has been rendered retarded by the pancake frisbee golf. And
I guess the guy next to him is a doctor, because it was about 2 seconds later, and the guy goes, "Oh, you must be retarded now. Let's turn around.
We're done." Yeah, our leader has been made retarded.
It was so fucking stupid. And
it was really stupid.
It insulted even the dregs of society that would be watching an Ernest movie.
Right. Yeah, well, this is a later Ernest movie, so this is when they were really dropping off.
It was late stage Ernest.
Yeah, late stage Ernest. This is like right before. Honestly, Jim Varney at this point might have already done Toy Story, so this was like a late addition to the Ernest oeuvre, where they probably were not.
Oeuvre la. Oh, behave.
Yeah, but this was a late Ernest title where they probably were not committing too much to him.
Slam Dunk Ernest was far superior, I have to say.
Yeah, Slam Dunk Ernest was a more enjoyable
fun one.
This movie was like fun to watch. What makes this movie fun to watch is like 9/11, honestly.
Yeah.
The fact that 9/11 happened makes this like retroactively fun to watch, just because it's a movie pre 9/11 that takes place in the Middle East. And so you get to watch this like movie that possesses all the innocence of a pre 9/11 war in the Middle East.
It's a cultural artifact.
Yeah. So then Ernest finally gets the girl. The news lady kisses him, and we're back to the fucking the lips. She kisses him, and his fucking lips peel off when she pulls away from him. And she goes, "What the fuck, dude?" And he goes, "Oh, those are my lips. They peel." And he takes the fucking skin back from her, and presses them back onto his lips. And she is done with him. He does not. She's like, actually, I changed my mind. So
Yeah.
the movie still ends with incel Ernest. He does not get to keep the girl. She's so grossed out by his fucking lips. She's out.
They pan away from Ernest and the newswoman with him chasing after her. Not as much in a rapey way as the Colonel was trying to get to her, but Ernest wants another kiss. She ain't having it. She says, "No, you gross me out." And they pan away from the scene in what could only be a drone leaving from over top of the set.
Probably not a drone in 1998. Probably just like one of those crane rigs. Yeah.
Remote control helicopter.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so maybe. So yeah, and then I guess that's the end of the movie. It ends with Ernest's gross, disgusting lips peeling off.
Well, the end sequence is the kid Ben with his dad, and then they say something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The narrator, the dad, shows up and he's like, "My son, Ben, we are reunited once more. The great American warrior, as prophesied, is saved us." And then what? So then they reunite, and then what happens?
I don't know exactly what's said, but the movie closes on the father saying to the son, "You know what I mean."
Oh yes.
And then fade to black. Roll credits.
Yeah, and then that's so that's Ernest saves the Middle East.
Honestly, if not for this podcast, a complete waste of fucking time. This
fucking
movie.
If we weren't trying to figure out how to do content and podcasting, would have never watched this pile of shit. But
Slam Dunk Ernest, I without even talking about it, I would have enjoyed.
Slam Dunk Ernest is a very fun,
is a ton of fun.
Slam Dunk Ernest is a romp.
And it has a lesson about the folly of ego.
Yeah, this movie is just like something we get beat on the head with every day now, which is geopolitics and war and just Middle Eastern conflict, which but at this point we're already sick of that.
Oh yeah.
Well, we've been going for a while here. Let's go ahead and get these super chats and get in the Patreon. Let's see. We got Ian. Is this Ian from
this is Ian.
The band?
Holy Coast.
Holy Coast.
This was Jim Varney's magnum opus Ernest movie before it became Ernest Gets Chemo trademark. Not soon after, gunned down in his prime.
That's right.
Yeah. Jim Varney got riddled with cancer not too long after this.
Thank you.
He died in 2000. So
festooned
with Jim Varney got festooned with cancer 2 years after this. He was dead.
The doctor's like, "You got cancer." You know what I mean?
So you're saying I should drink more Mellow Yellow? Probably no. I'd probably lay off the Mellow Yellow if I'm being honest. When do they beat Ernest with bars of soap? Mariska Hargitay. Yeah, they don't do.
Honestly, they fucking should have. They do. He deserved it way more than fucking anything Private Pilot ever did.
Yeah, the truth, like honestly, his like fellow soldiers in this movie are like at worst mildly annoyed with him, but mostly share like there's like camaraderie between them and Ernest. Like they never are like angry with him completely. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then by at the end of the movie, Ernest is reunited with his fat army friend Ben from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he's okay now.
Yeah, they're okay.
I guess that jamming the fucking needle into his vein 5 different ways.
Yeah,
really
I guess
worked.
licking the fucking IV and jamming it back in and really perked him back up.
I'd be so pissed if my friend did that to me.
I would be upset if my friend did
that. Broseph Smith, let's get some super chats going.
Oh, yeah. I like Broseph Smith's profile. Broseph met Louis J. Tafudi.
Yes.
Bro's got a picture with Louis J. Tafudi.
C-Dumps gifted another 5. Shout out. C-Dumps just the fucking best.
Thank you, C-Dumps.
And then we read AKs. I think he left.
This guy getting smart with me.
He's being a real smart aleck.
Yeah.
Robbie's third cousin gifts 20.
Thank you.
With Fat Captain Planet. Just incredible. Robbie's third cousin. Great guy. I've never met him. All right. So yeah, do we have Patreon shout outs?
Yeah. Patreon.com/The Crowder Boys. Hey guys, it's fully updated. All premium episodes are there. Video and audio is all there. Patreon.com/The Crowder Boys. If you subscribe for as little as $5 a month, you get access to all premium episodes and bonus content. But if you subscribe to the $10 a month tier, that's the new rulers, or any tier above that, you get a shout out on the show, and we do that every week. And we say a lot of the same names every week. So thank you for continuing to stay subscribed, and we hope that some of you upgrade your memberships or get new subscribers come in. But these are the shout outs. This is our $50 subscriber. This is our Please Don't Be Mean to Me tier. MC Downtrend. And then we have our new rulers, the $10 tier. Aaron Gutenplan, Bad Bart, Broke DGen, rest in peace. Kummerstein, Drew Huntley, I'm driving. I'm gay for Tim Butterly, but who isn't? James Worrell, JCG, Johan, Ramones, Robert Erickson, Steve's Nuts, the Muad'Dib, which interestingly enough, in this movie, Ernest basically is the Muad'Dib. Trevin Baker, our man Tarvin, and Vincente Caprini also broke DJ and rest in peace. And that's patreon.com/the Crowder Boys. This was a long one. I really, this is not, I guess like people say like, oh, the review is longer than the movie or whatever. This is not necessarily, Robbie even said that. Robbie, do not denigrate the very show that is paying your fucking bills, my friend.
It was a friendly jab.
It's a friendly jab. But this is not necessarily a review so much as it is like an analysis and a dissection.
Yes.
We do review the movie in a sense. Like we do comment on like our, how we feel about it. Do we enjoy it or not? But it's much more than just review. This is a full like unfurling Mr. Furley of the movie.
The people who made this movie really put a small amount of effort and thought into the creation of it and why things happen and when. So we kind of like to provide like, what would they say to somebody if they asked, what's the deeper meaning of this? Yeah,
it's like a death of the author kind of thing. We're like, who cares? We don't know what the intentions were of the screenwriters and the people that made the movie, how they wanted it to be interpreted, or what the way they made the movie, right? This is our own interpretation of it and dissection of it. You see this happen every like 3 months with Starship Troopers on Twitter, where everybody gets into a fucking fight about like what that movie's actually about.
What is it about?
Bugs. But
scary.
Yeah, Bugs is scary.
You're thinking of Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Oh, that's also about Bugs. But yeah, but it's ultimately just like, regardless of what the author's intentions were in the creation of the text, like what their vision is, the text itself can be interpreted a number of ways. And so that's sort of like what we mean when we say death of the author, that though the creators of this movie may have intended it for it to be one thing, we can interpret it in 10 different ways. Just a number of ways to interpret any text. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about Full Metal Jacket, where like Stanley Kubrick is explicitly meaning that to be anti-war, and that's his vision for the movie, and he believes that's his interpretation of the movie he made. But the movie itself, can still inspire men to want to join the military. Full Metal Jacket paradoxically can be interpreted a different way, and that's sort of the value in really digging in, sinking our teeth into these Ernest pictures. So please subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/the Crowder Boys, patreon.com/the Crowder Boys. We're gonna do a Patreon now?
Yeah, the link is in the description. I got the links all ready to go, but prepare. This is going to be a shorter Patreon.
This will probably be like a 40-45 minute.
But that means it's going to be a longer one next week. So guys, go ahead, subscribe. We like to do really fun things in the Patreon that we could never talk about on the free version. So you're going to want to get over there. The link is in the description, patreon.com/the Crowder Boys. Sign up now. We'll see you over there. We're jetting over there now. And we love you guys. And comment, on the show. Let us know what you think about crowded theater. Should we continue on the Ernest route, or should we be done with Ernest? Are we not sliding for Ernest no more?
Yeah, it doesn't have to just be Ernest. I mean, like any dumbass movie.
Yeah, any retarded movie.
Any movie that does not deserve this kind of analysis, we will do.
Yep. So let us know. Give us some feedback. We love you guys. And have a good night. It's the last podcast left. I saw that who was it? Dan Mullen, I think, said this is the only podcast left, which I like that too.
Yeah, I like that.
This is the only podcast left.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in the Patreon. Peace.